Hello again to the practical part of a little workshop today called Kickstart the Digital Twin. Why? Because basically what the digital twin is, I will just give a short notice now from my perspective. Jörg Nöning explained today around 9 o'clock, and I found it very appealing and interesting about this whole idea behind that. But I must say in advance that there is no final solution to the digital twin so far today. There are different approaches which can be, let's call it, a certain result to a certain customer from a certain point, but there is nothing global or nothing standardized so far where you could say, I take it top of the shelf, put it down there and just works fine. So we're far from that, but maybe workshops like this can help to build some kind of standards in that kind of field. So I'm very curious of what kind of questions or what kind of information we can gather today together and see what happens. So basically a short agenda for today. They're just like 3 topics I planned so far. So this little intro and baseline about the digital twin, just to give a little bit heads up. Then to go into the how to kickstart digital twin from my point of view. It's my perspective from the experience I made so far from different areas. Doesn't have to be the best way, but there's one way where I can share the things that I witnessed so far. Yeah. And at the end, I would like to bring that all together interactively to a little bit lessons learned to see what does it bring, where the discussion leads, because from many ways and perspectives, I think that this whole digital transformation part, especially in that area, will accelerate in such ways that we will fall behind very quickly in just to try to, let's say, compare the different solutions that will grow into the market, and especially the risks they involve as well, because there are not only potentials and challenges to that, but from my perspective and view, there are also some really high strategic risks digital twin or digital twinning, what is it called, can bring to our nowadays society. Yeah. So a short intro. So where we come from, what's our perception, what we're actually doing as a company or as me as a person. I started for basically the name Mikasinovic. I come from Munich. Yeah, my parents are just from former Yugoslavia, and I worked a couple of years at Nemetschek as a trainer for different software solutions. But Nemetschek is a software company per se. But I finished my studies in architecture about the University of Technology in Vienna, where I programmed a little application over Unity with a little project that I set up. And what I always found it very interesting is that from the perspective of the BIM-wise, so the BIM methodology, the idea is always in the room, but there were never practical approaches so far that I could say in the fields that I encountered that it was fully operational or really truly working, because people were sort of struggling to handle their own software packages so far. And that's why 5 years ago I started I quit my job at Nemetschek and started which I continued then in Hamburg. And started the own company. And what we did is we worked together with the Fraunhofer, we digitized certain things in Munich, and we just tried to go hands-on, yeah, and not be scared about it. So because we basically want to go into the project and do the project and finish the project. The theoretical part, it's nice to have, but we want to get stuff done. So this is basically the thing, how we approach everything. And that's the DNA of how we think and work. And what's basically our workflow as a company is that we try to cover the whole information density of our construction project, which means even if things start at phase zero, which means that that's the common idea. And the people who want to build something just try to get connected with architects, try to define the project itself. Therefore, we have a cooperation here with a law firm, Graf von Westphalen, where we write the contracts with stuff like that, and we try to assist those projects and those people, even to go to the construction site with that, and even after the construction site to finish this whole cycle of information, so it could possibly lead to after the project is finished into the potentials of a digital twin, which basically would be a great benefit if you maintain the building and an operational phase so far. Does this really work perfectly? No way. Yeah, no way. So it's just getting this information loop done is one big effort. and talking about having this information loop done, that it works perfectly fine. We're far away from that, yeah, but learning and doing, yeah. So this is actually the approach behind that, yeah. We try to cover all the processes and the phases, because also from my point of view, the biggest gap that we have today is the construction side, yeah. The construction side of any project is the one point where things get diverse, where things cannot get finished, where they're really the delta is growing between the things that are simulated and the things that should happen as well, yeah. So just to give you a heads up, what's the experience day. But basically, the main goal is, if you create something like an operational digital twin that you would have, that you generate from the asset to have a positive alpha. So to spend less energy on a building, or to be much more wiser in constructing a building, yeah, or maybe to have better control over the costs and all those things, yeah, because 90% of the costs are in the operational phase of the building. 5 to 10% of the costs are mostly in the planning and the construction side. If you would spare something like 3 to 7% on energy costs and other costs over 30 years, basically the building would finance itself. But nobody so far is willing at the beginning of a project to face this long scope, because everybody has a different perspective for that. Often a project is started just to get it done, and to sell it as quick as possible to make a higher market value pitch. So the motivation is one of those main topics also to discuss here. And basically what our goal and our wish is to generate an operational connection between the reality and the virtuality, between a virtual building and a live building. Why is that so? Because I believe that in today's society, especially in the construction industry per se, we are so far behind in how we treat our way we are constructing things in the whole construction industry per se. It's such a waste. Like 20% of every construction site is just trash that's been generated. I mean, 20%. It's something like every fifth project would finance itself through all those things. Why is that so? It's certain laziness behind that. Or even if you throw stuff away at a construction site, often it goes into one bin. Recycling in Germany, not a big issue so far, yeah, but we are struggling having resources to get concrete build it and other things. So this is highly absurd. Yeah, this is highly absurd. It's just growing into a big money market, constructing assets and selling buildings, and on the other side, building up a whole city network. On the other hand side, it's so wasteful how we treat it. So from my perspective, from my point of view, those digital twins of our construction of our cities itself could be a big leap to have a better understanding how we can treat our way of resources and our way how we waste our surroundings, not only through the cities, but only through behaviors and through data and through facts. So this is basically how we work and how we try to focus on these things. And we have at the moment two projects running. One is for the Ministry of Economy. It's called Moby-Dick. It's a research project where we try to figure out a mobile learning center for the construction site. And the other one is with the Fraunhofer together in Bavaria with the Bayern FM. It's like 8 partners, is to generating a whole process a workflow of a building that already exists. So we also try to go into those research fields, which is pretty annoying because filling all the paperwork really is annoying for me. So this is not the best I'm at. Yeah, Emilia knows what I'm talking about, but hey, who cares? I mean, this is how you can let's say have a sparring partner in these projects to find things up. So we're on the way for that for the last 5 years. Are we finished? Not even close, yeah, but I say learning by doing. So if you try something out, you see what you get. So this is how the approach should be to the whole things, yeah. Any questions so far? I mean, anything you like to know, share? Yes, no, maybe? Then maybe I would like to join a little bit about the baseline of a digital twin. I think I'm very sure that you heard a couple of approaches to that thing. For me, when I try to explain this to myself, I try to generate a few criteria and facts about how I feel about it. Yet again, it's not the final solution to anything. It's just my learnings and my approach to that. So can be right, can be wrong. Yeah, basically, at the beginning, it should start with a certain mindset, because I say, if you start any kind of project, and especially a project where you want to have a result as the digital twin or something like that, you need to generate a formula. And I always say, keep it simple and smart. Yeah, try to keep it really low profile in many things if you want to get those things really working. Why is that so? Because basically, if you try to establish something like this in a big company or a medium company like this, you just have to get the teams running to understand what it's all about and to have the confidence to work with that. Yeah. Why is that so? Because in my opinion, the digital transformation is something that has to change as a way of working, basically. Yeah. To change into our own culture, company culture, how you communicate with different people. Therefore, you need to have everybody on board to be brave enough to say, I don't understand this. What's the question? How can I get these things working? And contrary, you would have something very complex going on where the room of 20 people, nobody asks you a question. Yeah, and everybody thinks it's just hunky-dory to go home at 5 o'clock. So it needs something to be practical. So my baseline always is to say, keep it simple and smart. And if you try to get this methodology running, yeah, it's easier to handle projects to that. Yeah, so this is one of those things I always say at the beginning like that. Then basically, if I would like to describe a digital twin, what is that? I mean, this is a fancy word, like BIM is a fancy word, yeah, because you can always, marketing-wise, push stuff like that. But a digital twin is, I think, something that basically came from the machine industry, which they used up marketing tools like General Electric to say, yeah, if you have a turbine and you can simulate all those parts and you can see life cycles and running to that, then you can make far better decisions like that. Yeah, but it's a little bit more than that. But basically, it is something that describes a digital representation of a physical entity. Whatever it could be a building, but it could also be a person. It could also be a small screw, but it could also be an atom. It could be a part of a body, yeah, which you can afterward have a digital representation of that. Yeah, in medicine, it can be used to run simulations to see how things could possibly go if somebody gets COVID, and how the lungs could operate to that. Yeah, so it is not only described on an asset, but it, from my opinion, goes much farther than that. Yeah. Then, secondly, what's also very important is, at a certain point, and this is where the kicker is in nowadays, you need real-time data. Yeah. So you need something that is connected. Mostly it's sensor or IoT, the IoT-based things behind that. Yeah, which gives you a back and forth between the real entity and the virtual entity which is behind that. And why is that important? Because through that you can interact vice versa into both fields. I mean, what would be one select to that is how you operate with drones. Yeah, you can sit in Alabama and you can operate a drone strike in Afghanistan without ever leaving the camp you're in. Yeah, so basically, where are you with your mind beyond that? Then one of those things, if you want to work with a digital twin, and that's essential, it needs to be run by a cloud somehow. It's strictly something that needs the internet, yeah, because otherwise you would not get this connection between each other. Why is that so important? Because through gathering the data and information about the digital twin, it gets huge, it gets immense, it gets enormous. What we try always to manage is to work with point clouds, because they show and let's say a print of the real situation there. But those data formats, they're that on even the strongest computer, at a certain point it will not work anymore. So basically, we're talking cloud-based, we're talking server-based, so that those things can really interact with each other. And something that sounds a little bit funky is to say it must be somehow free from time and space. What do I mean by that? It's just like, now we can all sit virtually together, but it doesn't matter where we sit. Yeah, I'm sitting in Hamburg, Amelia probably sit in Hamburg, you are somewhere spread about Northern Europe. So space is not the physical space in the distance that we had. It's not the most important thing at the moment. And secondly is time. Time is in that kind of, if media is now recording this, maybe somebody in 50 years will take a look about that. Yeah. Maybe somebody in 10 minutes will take a look about that. So basically how you interact with the digital twin, it's also something that's a different time scale behind that. Yeah. Then something which is really, really, really important is that it has to serve a practical benefit. Yeah. Basically, if tests been run or some pilot projects been set up about digital twins to see how they work, they just go from the tech side into it. And they try to describe and say, okay, now we covered all the technical basis behind that. And we covered all the possibilities that we have behind that. But nobody asked actually the question, what benefits should it serve? What functionality does it have to behind that? Yeah. And this is then when things get a little bit awkward. We see, yeah, okay, we need, let's say we can count all the cars, we need the pedestrian and the bikers to see how the flow of traffic is running, for example, in Hamburg. And if you don't have that because you didn't thought about in advance what kind of sensor tracking you have before that, it's not operational. So this is something that we strongly discussed in phase 0 or at the beginning of anything you want to do. Yeah. Then another point is that it is every digital data that exists so far, because also from my point of view, it's the human being that needs this description of a digital twin, because it always is somehow connected to a graphical representation. Yeah. But the data which constructs the information is already there. Yeah. Not only the human brain needs often a visual impact combined to process this data, to turn data to information to intelligence, because mostly people misunderstand that data equals information equals intelligence, which is not true at all. You need to firstly understand what the information and difference between data is to get to this point of intelligence. And therefore, one can discuss to say that every kind of digital data that exists can be used in one way or the other for digital twin, if you find a purpose for that. Only a theory. Exactly. And then the last point would be reference at last to one interaction. So I need somehow to interact with the digital twin. If I set it up and nobody uses it, what is it good for? Yeah. If there is no interaction between it, so the people run projects spend a lot of money, and at the end nobody cares, what is it good for? Yeah. I mean, of course, you have the scientific procedure, you learn something about that, but at the end, you always have to think about that you need to boil it down to the essential parts so that people can really use it. Yeah. For example, on the construction sites, you could put people to very big screens with a lot of fancy buttons. At the end of the day, the one guy just wants to put the screw in the wall, and that's the only thing that he wants to do. And why would he click to 2,000 menus? So what is the information that he needs about when he's on the construction site? He needs to know if the space is empty, he can go inside to finish his work. That would be his benefit to that. Just to give you a rough example about that topic. Then, for my definition, I try to categorize into 3 time zones. Yeah. Why is that so? If I start discussing and say, okay, actually, I have a digital representation of everything, and it's somehow interconnected with some people or somebody who has a benefit or tries to work with it. Is it a good or a bad thing? It's to be discussed later. Then actually I have something I can look for. I can say maybe I have something like a digital twin which reflects the future. So before it actually exists per se, I want to simulate something. I want to maybe try to predict some actions, how they interact with each other. I want to have different variations calculated. Yeah, this is something that this BIM workflow is promising to do. That's why it's always the big discussion how those 2 things could be connected or not in one way or the other. No? And at the end, because I said that the person always needs this graphic representation to better understand what's the connection between each other, is generating some kind of virtual idea of how it will look like. And this is so simple. Why? Because I studied architecture, and I often forget that if you talk about spaces, construction, three-dimensional parts, you get used to it. Yeah, you get used to it, to read floor plans, to do other things like that. Most people don't. Yeah, most people don't have the imagination just like this. They need time to get there, to think about and see and feel what it could looks like. And this is a simple, it's changed with the how people talk. Basically, if you put a 2D plan on something, yeah, then people go like yeah, left, right, corner, and use these words. But if you put on a 3D simulation of everything, all of a sudden people try to change the language and say it's back, it's forth, it's the other room. They try to describe the same thing as if they've been there. So this asset of visualizing something has a very strong value to communicate with everyone, yeah, in a project. And this is something which is interesting about the digital twin, because highly complex things can be boiled down to something very understandable if you know how. But this how is the big question, yeah. Then it's something that you say, you have the present of a digital twin, yeah, and this is something like a mirror, yeah. So actually, every movement or shadow that you make, you get the twin on the other side, and it's something like the mirror on the wall, yeah. So that means that whenever something in the real world moves, the other things get connected to that and not get notifications about that. And why is that interesting? Because let's say if you have a construction site, and every construction site worker would have on his helmet a sensor, or maybe in his glasses, yeah, different sensoric parts in that. And now all of a sudden an accident happens, somebody falls down. There are gyro sensors in those little trackers. If somebody falls down, an alert of a notification could come somewhere else to say, okay, something is wrong in this area. You could directly send somebody there. So this would be a benefit of just connecting something that has been mirrored to a digital world so far. And there are like millions of those examples. The only question is is it accepted, yeah, from those people who are using it? Because having this kind of mirror or digital mirror on your wall gives you a very strong feeling to be observed the whole time. From my opinion, fact is, you are observed the whole time. You just don't get it so far, because there are like a million cameras around you recording, and you don't notice it. Yeah, and that's also true. So it's a form of awareness and putting a benefit maybe to that. It also comes to this interaction to the digital twin, to the physical entity, because this works both ways. Maybe I could send a notification over the digital twin to the real asset itself. For example, mostly we use buildings today, like if you would have a car in your garage, and you keep the car running 24 hours a day, just to drive 2 hours a day. So if you would do that and you tell anybody this story, they will go like, you're insane. Yeah, why would you do that? But this is actually how we treat our buildings today. Yeah. So the standard procedure is to heat the building 24 hours a day, and every room to have a certain temperature. But the fact is that most office buildings are used like something like 8+ hours a day. So it's 16 hours they're not used per se. Where's the energy going? Nobody knows. Nobody cares. Why would I change something about that? Yeah. And that's the thing. Maybe I could interact over digital twin of information to say, no, let's regulate those entities, and maybe put a notification system if I want to book a room, that the room heats down or cools down before I go inside and use it. Yeah, would also be an example of how I interact with something like that. And look in media, I did it again. I wrote platform with 2 T's like German instead of 1 T. Damn it! But I will change this later. So we can cut this out, right? We can cut this out. Nobody see that. Yeah, that you also generate to the physical presence a metadata platform. Yeah, because if you collect the data to digital twins, you get a pool of data which is highly interesting for deep learnings and other things. And all of a sudden, you can combine certain things. You can have interactions which you didn't see about that before. So a pool of digital twins would be a great asset to learn how we behave, how we move, and whatever we do. especially for next generations to come, who will call us insane of how we treated our resources on one certain point. Which brings me to the third part, is to say like, okay, let's talk about the past. Shouldn't be the other way around. No, well, let's say you have a building. You scanned it, digitized it, whatever. You have a track record of the whole thing. Yeah. Now you have an earthquake. It falls apart. That's not good. But now you have a digital documentation about that. So you have until the moment of failure, you could see why this happened, how it behaved. And even if the building is long gone, you have the digital heritage about that. So you could interact through time again and see what was happening in the past about that. And this is very interesting because in some kind of reverse engineering, like 25 years ago or 30 years ago, a friend of mine is professor at the University of Technology, Peter Verschin, and the whole scanning thing said like, yeah, we did that 35 years ago, and then the first really cool scanners came out, and he did the pyramids in Egypt and stuff like that, and said they scanned everything that couldn't run away until you count till 3. Then they scanned it, and what's with the data? Nothing. It's somewhere storage and nobody used it. So that, but having a platform where you have all those informations in a storage somewhere where you can reach out for it, that would be a great benefit if I would know what 25 years from today happens in some places. Yeah, and that's the second point. The categories of this digital kind of twin would be a knowledge database for future variations, because if I know how the city changed at a certain point, or the building behavior or city other assets, I could get maybe a different view on my decisions that you have to make, yeah, for certain things that would come in the future again. So basically, from my point of view, many fragments of this idea of the digital twin are around for the last 35 or 40 years. I strongly believe, because our technologies involved to be so much more faster, like the internet and our cloud-based working to that. This is the accelerator behind all these things. Yeah, like we can talk now online no matter where we sit. I think that would be hardly to maintain like 20 or 30 years ago. Yeah, you just would have to cancel those things, and that's a big difference. That's a big angle. That's a big thing. So basically, if you would ask me, yeah, I would like to structure a digital twin. I would say you need 5 things. So like 5 fingers, 5 things. My opinion can be right, can be wrong. You can be the judge of that. Yeah. So what do you think could those 5 things be? Yeah. What could those 5 things be? Emilia, what could those 5 things be? Yeah? Your microphone is off, so that's why I can't see.
What would be the 5 things to structure the digital twin?
Yes, please. And don't feel pressured. I don't take notes.
No, wait a second. First, what you want, what you need it for. Wouldn't be that?
Excellent.
And maybe also the other participants can think of something, but that would be definitely then the use case and the data. Who are you addressing? Mm-hmm. And well, so it has to do something with the real data and the sensors that you need.
That's why you got the 1 from me. Yeah, actually, you nailed it. I just had different fancy word for that. Well, actually 5 things, but I come and start with 4 because I want to cluster my examples and the discussion. I would like to go through all those 5 stages and try to generate from the group ideas. What do you think? What is your point of view? What do you see as the perspective, or what's your risk factors that you envelop for that? So from my point of view, it's a graphical representation. Yeah, monkey see, monkey do. Yeah, if I see it, I get it. Yeah, that's the whole point. Yeah, if I try to explain you a story about if I want to use coffee and the coffee, but I don't want to use sugar, or I just put this in my picture and say, oh, it's sweetener, then you get it. Yeah, it's a picture, you can work with that. Yeah, or like example, I destroyed my laptop, so I need an external something like that to get my backup done. So the graphical representation of an entity is for, I think, the understanding for the human part. It's crucial behind that. Then the other thing is the asset identification. So if I show you something, yeah, I need to identify it by a word, but also I need to say, okay, this is a wall, this is a column, or this is a turbine, or this is this screw with the identification number 6509379 for that purpose. So it needs an ID. Yeah, those things needs ID that you can cluster and you can defer them. Then the other thing would be a platform. So I need somewhere a platform where I can get the data, deliver the data, yeah, or I need something to build my building on. Let's at the end of the day, yeah, which is the storage and the thing how to work with. And I need at the end to keep it running. I need live data. Yeah, I need something that interacts with that. It is IoT, but it also could be somebody on the phone who calls me and say, "Hey, look, now it changed to 0 or to yellow." That's a stupid example, but you need something that gives you an update. Yeah, something that gives you an accurate state of the real asset compared to the digital asset. Yeah. And I used a little bit of a fancy word. I'm sorry about that if it gets tacky. It's the human soul. Yeah, it sounds weird, but at the end of the day is why would I call it the human soul? Because it's something like our culture defines like that. Yeah, I mean, if you ever visited Rome, yeah, and you walk to the city of Rome itself, yeah, it's been there for over 2,500 years. Yeah, and all those streets, all those buildings, all those behaviors been shaped through hundreds of generations of people who run there through. Yeah, but it describes something that the culture is part of there. Yeah, and it also reflects on the next generations to come. And I strongly believe that this kind of work, how we do with the digital twins and digital city twins in the future, will also affect how we change as a culture, how we change in the social part. And as Jörg Nünning said today, the social aspect is totally forgotten in this whole technical descriptions behind that. Yeah. And that's a crucial thing behind that, because if you don't integrate the society or the human behavior or the people, how they interact with that behind that, you lack a big factor to create any use case or any benefit who is behind that. Yeah, and this is why I call it the human soul, because I don't know. There's a musician, Roots Maneuver, said like, "It's not blood in my veins; it's liquid soul in my body." Yeah, it's something that one day we will all die and nobody will live forever. That is for sure. But what will remain and change is the impact, maybe, or the marks we left in society. And when I look at my children, I have 2 daughters. Yeah, the youngest, she could use my smartphone because before she could start reading. Yeah, because she can use the icons and know how to unlock my phone to watch something else, like a child's documentary. Then we went somewhere else and she saw a TV screen. Yeah. And then she was like 3 years old and she went to the screen and she started to swipe the screen. And then she looked at me and went like, "What's wrong?" I went like, "I have to explain to you. This is a classic TV set, not touch screen." Yeah. She went like, "What? How's that possible?" I said like, "It's a long story, darling. It's like when the internet makes sounds like yeah, stuff like that." So this is how it impacts us in our behavior to that, and we are not aware of that, but it's already there. Yeah, I mean, this is already there. It's like when Netflix is not working, it's the end of the world, baby. Yeah, during lockdown, what you get so used to those things that you don't know how to do that. So it affects us. It affects us as people, as human beings. Yeah, and it can leave also very bad effects on your soul. Yeah, if you don't take care of it, because if in a negative aspect of Spencer, if somebody wants to reach out and control you and track you and do you harm, yeah, it can be very, very, very easily done. Yeah, in many ways, from my perspective or my point of view. I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think so. Yeah. Any questions so far? Any?
Yeah, actually, could we, hi there, could
Yes,
we
please.
go back to the previous one where you had past, present, and future?
Yes, please.
Yeah, for this one. So yeah, thanks for the general idea of like, so could you explain a bit more about present and future? For present particularly, what do you have in mind, or what was meant by metadata platform?
What I mean is like that if you show the present aspect of the digital twin, it's like when I moved the digital twin moves, and if I go back and say like it's not me, it's like 8 billion people who do that. Yeah, I generate metadata. Yeah, I generate a so high level of data. For example, some friend of mine work at Google, and he showed me an app on his mobile phone, and he said like, look, if I put up the camera can identify the surface. It says like it's wood, it's floor, it's stuff like that. Yeah. And he said like, okay, that's cool, but if 8 billion people start using these things, yeah, the technology will freak out, yeah, because there's a limit to that. Yeah. So basically, if there would be like 8 billion digital twins, the question would be, what kind of metadata platform would we need to just try to tackle the thing? Yeah. This is what with metadata I mean, that at the highest high level, yeah, many things will be comparable, but also we will have very, very, very huge data streams to connect to. Did I answer your question in a way that
yeah,
you?
I think I did. Yeah, you did it, because this is the first time I noticed that, someone associated metadata with digital twin from my point of view. So, but okay.
Is that good or bad? Is that good or bad? I'm panicking now.
Neither.
Oh no, God.
But anyhow, but okay, before I jump into the future with the discussion, so about digital twin, are you referring to it with more of the like as a basis? Do you use 2D or 3D or any additional dimensions, like when you talk about digital twin?
Yes. Why? So basically, I don't know. It is kind of wording. People talk like 4 dimensions, 5 dimensions, 6 dimensions. This is BIM, blah blah. They go like, yeah, this is time. That could be cost. This could be done. I try to differ this, because I said there are those 3 dimensions which show you a kind of volume. Yeah. And that's a volume which is an entity which defines an asset, yeah, because it gives me a geometry that I can process in my brain and try to associate something with that, yeah. To go like, oh, this is a car, this is a building, this is a window, yeah. Nevertheless, those more dimensions that have been talked to, they are more like those IDs which I'm trying to talk about, because you can say like, okay, what kind of window is that? As a specification number, what kind of cost is that? But those dimensions or identifications, they are so much more. And those 3D components, I get it, yeah, without having the possibility, if I could not read, yeah, I could get what the picture shows me. But all those other informations that go behind that, they could be far more complex and interact with each other as well, yeah, because they could combine different IDs or levels or dimensions or whatever, vice versa, to get a certain output of that. Example, if you would have like a 2D model for the BIM workflow, you could go, I would like to see all windows. You type in windows. Then you could go like, would like to see all windows which have the specifications, I don't know, 2 meters. Bam, you see only those things. You can filter things, you can filter information better, yeah, but you will always only get the visual parts at the first sight. Yeah. So this is why I try to argument in those 2 directions. Yeah.
Okay, got it. I understand your way of why you used it in this sense. And so, because why I asked about the 2D or 3D, because that's where I'm more exploring into that space. Because for the future, when you're doing simulations, you definitely have to have data. And so what sorts of data, either if it's a 3D model or whatever, for example, doing wind simulations, sun simulations, and so on, maybe you have a list of simulations that particularly could be done, or maybe not aren't currently possible to be done, but maybe in the near future could be, potentially, processed and simulated. But so maybe, yeah, you have some examples for the future simulations and calculations that are here stated.
Well, I think they're like 2 levels, and one level is already there. I mean, did you ever use Blender or Cinema 4D?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So especially if you have like FBX files and stuff like that, you can run to those very simple rules. If, for example, you would have a building, yeah, and then you can have those dust simulation in those tools, yeah. You can simulate how dust would interact in this building if a fire would spread out, yeah. You can do this today with Blender or Cinema 4D or Maya or whatever, if you know how to put that up, yeah. But from my point of view, simulations should go much deeper, yeah. Why? I think the human brain has a very huge problem in thinking in how you said it, potenzen, times, yeah, times 10, times 100, times like that, yeah. So if I go like to see if I have a plastic waste and I throw it into the ocean, who cares, yeah. But if 8 billion people do that twice a day, we've got a problem, yeah. And mostly the processing this in a context is difficult, but having simulations run from any kind of digital twins who would show me like the exponential waste that I generate if I go like this or like that, would show me scales of how I'm mistreating actually resources. Yeah, and this is what I think with a huge scale of digital twins in combination with each other would generate data that gives me learnings in this kind of fields. Yeah, so not only that I could say, yeah, is the window node colliding with something else, or can I open or close the window behind that? But I can go much deeper and say, no, wait, I have a track record of 260 buildings of that type, class A. I could interact them with each other and see at a certain day of the month, how was the energy pollution and things. And those complex questions you could start asking if you would have the live data, the identifications behind that, and you can verify that it's true behind that. So this is where I'm going with this simulations behind that. Yeah. So having so much input that we don't get it, but that much more researchers or other people could come and then learn from that or have an idea and try to prove it. Yeah. But basically, I think this will all lead in some way of AI, which will go like, okay, if you plan your city like that, you know what's going to happen. Yeah, it's like assistant driving. Yeah, it's going like you don't get it because the computer helps you drive the car. You think you're a fancy driver with the BMW. Far away from that. Yeah, and this will also be like a big asset in helping you make decisions like that, which is good and bad at the same time because. You always need to ask the questions. All those tools are fancy and helping us, but the humans need to make the decisions and be aware of the consequences. Yeah, and therefore you need specialists and people who can make the decisions. It's like if you have brain surgery, yeah, because it's fancy now to vote everything today, which is absolutely right to be democratic, but not everything is a democratic process. Yeah, if you go into an operation room and you have like 50 people there, and there's one brain surgeon, then we go like, I would like to operate on his brain, he's dying, and then like everybody goes like, no, let's put it to vote. Yeah, so 50 people or 30 people, I think you should make the cut like this. Yeah, but 5 people think you should make it like this, and you go like, shut up, you know, experts. I'm the brain surgeon. Yeah, so this is where it could go wrong in those things, because if everybody can see that, everybody can be the judge of something. The question is who makes the decisions afterwards. Yeah.
Okay, because typically about digital twins, usually it's part of the smart city solutions, or trying to be definitely a part of it to make on data-driven decision making possible. And typically like as you just mentioned, for professionals, it's not you don't have to convince them to see where the value is, but typically you're talking about politicians or cities and people that maybe don't have any background in the field, and plus they have to vote, and additional to that they have to have the budget to do the either study or operation or particular scope of work in order to either get this twin city up, digital twin up and running, or at least partially running. So how to convince them to ensure that this is a good investment for the city. If they don't understand it, they just see it as an additional expense that they don't see any value in.
That's true. And especially you can go by the potentials and the fear, because basically you could say like, okay, let's say I have a building and I can operate this building from wherever I sit in the world by just pushing a few buttons. What if my intentions are bad? Yeah. What if I want to overcook the people in the building by putting the heat up or close the windows or not letting it die, or doing other nasty stuff? It works both ways. Yeah. So also security, or how it affects our daily life if some other people want to interact in a bad way through those infrastructure, maybe energy supplies there back in there. it's also to be discussed. I mean, in some pilot projects with major energy companies where we try to set up a pilot, the IT center is not connected. Our IT specialist had to call the other IT specialist, and he had to describe him on the phone what he has to do. Yeah, he was not allowed to enter anyhow in those things. So this is where it can lead to some very capsulate form of those things, because people are scared about that. Yeah, and that's fear is not a good motivator, but it's something that makes people understand it, to test it and verify if it shows a risk, yes or no. Yeah. So this is, I think, which also will drive the developments of possible digital twins, because fear can be a strong motivator behind that.
Okay, yeah, and maybe you have some good case studies or examples where it helped, you know, maybe you have it further along in the presentation where the digital twin actually helped the client or the owner save, I mean, half of it or maybe 10% in the long term. It justifies the cost of initial investment.
Let me get to that, because this is one of my next slides to come. Yeah, good that you mentioned it, Bob. My name is not Bob. Who cares? So let's go on. Just kidding. So I just want to put up the mantra of Jörg, which he put up today, because I like this mantra. The digital city twin is a digital replica for simulating complex cross-scale urban development process based on social spatial data and human dynamics. So to say, yeah, basically what it is, cool idea. What's with the people? Yeah, this is how I could boil it down if I would have to explain it to somebody on the street. Yeah, because everything you do affects you. So basically, let's look into that. Yeah, that's one of those how I would boil this mantra down. It is complex and it is a simulation, and it can have cross-scale urban developments. But at the end, that nobody had in mind is how does it affect the human beings, yeah, or the human soul, if you want to be fancy words or being techie. And this is where you also could keep people pushing to the thing to see, hey, it's like we can discuss gravity. I'm for it, I'm against it. Who cares? It's there, it's working. Gravity is here. Let's put gravity off. Doesn't work. So the digital transformation already is there through society. Just not to accept it or just to negotiate like, is it really there, makes no sense, because it's like an industrial revolution that rolls over the whole society. If it is like that, then look at the whole society, what is happening to them, maybe by the background of a digital city twin or digital twin per se. So this also can be an argument how to get people interested about this general idea to get things running, because as I said, monkey see, monkey do. If you try it out, you witness something, and you can replicate it. Which brings me to the thing of the idea. And thanks for the discussion. We can do please more of that. How to kickstart the whole thing, and that's exactly what I wanted to intend is let's play ping pong. Yeah. So I say something, you say something, and then I throw in, like, I try to show my examples in those 5 fields, and I would love, if you're interested, to discuss those 5 things. What do you think about that? Or what's your experience about that? Or what would you wish to achieve about that? Yeah. Why? Just a second, please.
I'm saying yes. Okay.
No, I just thought I put my phone off on silent, but somehow it did not. Anruflautstärke. There you go. Zip. There you go. So that's ping pong. Let's start with the graphical representation. Why the graphical representation? As I said, it's easy to understand. Yeah, if you have this, bam, look at this. What's this? It's a banana. Is it a banana? I don't know. Yeah, it looks like a banana. So it's funny actually, because it's in your mind. If basically, if I showed in the past, if I showed people like how software worked, like 3-dimensional modeling or stuff like that, you sit in front of a screen and you argue if there's really a room there, but you go like, no, wait, basically 2 people are sitting in front of a thing that makes funky colors, and we think it's like really there and it's really a room. So the way of our discussion changed to that only by seeing the picture, no matter what language we speak. Yeah, it's like you go, I don't speak Italian, or I could go to China and I could point to a bread and so like, can I have this? Can you give me this? Yeah. And then if he says, you want the book? I said, no, not the book, the picture, the book, dude. Yeah. So by pointing at stuff like what digital means, the digitos with the finger and showing, yeah. This is one of those key values to classify a digital twin. Why is that so? Because that makes it easier to understand what this is all about. And I put a little example from one of our customers where we helped them. It's so basically it's so BIM in Germany is very fancy and very funky, and it's everybody's doing it like for 200 years right now, yeah, which is not true. But basically it spreads into big city. But the focus we put on is into small communities. Why is that so? Because small communities like Kreise, which is called in Germany, there are much more of them than big fancy cities. And it's much easier for them to apply to a new way of working. Why is that so? Because the structure of the organization is often much simpler, and they know each other from the soccer club or something else. So if they go in the other corner, say, hey, I need this, can you send it to me? It's not a big political thing. Yeah, it's not like, oh, I have to send like 3 letters and wait 6 months so that the guy answers who doesn't want to work with me. So this is actually the approach we have to that. And what we did is there was basically this circular Wertschöpfungskette, one project where we set up the BIM standards, and what they did is they built everything in 3D, and this is just one example how a digital representation can work. I mean, they are now in the construction side of this building. It's not very big and fancy. It's like 15 million, yeah. But the thing is, they really were eager to learn how to work with that, with this BIM workflow. Why I'm bringing this up? But because basically it brings a lot of potential for digital twin. I have a graphical representation. And as well, you have information that you can pinpoint to them. And it includes the simulation of something. You can discuss parts of it and go like, yeah, but is it far enough, big enough, high enough, or whatever? And the general idea that we want to generate with this project in Germany is when it's finished, let's say in 8 months plus, if Corona comes by and that, we want, because this is an archive. This is an archive where books and documents are stored, yeah? And what we want to generate is a real digital twin on a level that you have sensor data that gives you back information, how's the status, yeah, of the building so far. And that's the goal behind that, yeah? If it will work, I have no idea, because many things changed through Corona, but what I found very appealing by this little example is that there are structures who are willing to go this way, really to go through with it. And my advice, if you want to kickstart something for that, you need somebody who wants to play along. Yeah, you need a customer, a structure, anybody in the city, anybody in the community who has a project and who's eager to try something new out, yeah, and then you can start and go and argue, say, yeah, but we could try digital twin with the benefits of blah 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 blah, yeah, and then you have something like a real use case where you can really try those things out, yeah. This is one of the examples. Now, another example is that what Jörg showed today, yeah. It's the scanning of the city science lab, yeah. And this happened, it was very complex. We were sitting having dinner together, and we have a little competition, like who can eat more steaks, Schweinshaxen and stuff like that. And we said, yeah, but we can scan a part of it to test things out and say, yeah, let's do it. And then I took one of our scanners, I went there, and then I scanned part of the Hatsu just to try it out. Yeah, and that's actually the approach. Yeah, so basically what we have here is some kind of 360 viewer combined, which is web-based. They're all just tools to where the meaning is to try out how it works. And it's actually on Facebook with all those things. So we scanned it and we put up all the old things and running it and providing it to the Hatsu. But the general idea behind this was you just try it out, yeah. And here the point is, the difference which I want to show is between those two different graphical representations is, the one is a simulation, yeah. The other one is, let's say, a moment in time of the real building. What does that mean? There's a big difference behind those two things. The one difference is the other thing, it looks perfect, yeah. It's always straight 90 degrees, couldn't be better. But if you work with scanning and with pictures, you always see what's actually there. It's the dirt, it's the damage, it's the things that went wrong, it's the things that, but basically like the cables that are hanging down or some other things in the back end. It shows a state, a real state of something as a 3D print. And it also gives the high possibility of a graphical representation. Why? Because I can show this to any handyman and he gets it. You know what I mean? He can prepare the way to how and where he has to go to change the bulb or a lamp and save a lot of time. People can look into the space and prepare before they actually go there, or people can remind themselves of something. Say, yeah, but there was this, you know, remember the one guy was writing something on that wall, and go back and look into the wall. Yeah, so it gives this impact of a graphical representation, but it's only building wise. It could be also many other things or fragments except of that. So my question would be now, what have you in mind for graphical representation? So I give you two examples, but what would you picture or wish to have as a graphics to describe a digital twin?
I will pretty much agree with your point that the basic need to have graphical representation is because computers are great with numbers, but they can't draw conclusions from that data. My background is little from the structural engineering side, and in that aspects, I can see that you can get billions of data points in something like seismic design or earthquake engineering or many other aspects. But at the end of the day, you have to visualize that data and draw conclusions and trend. So any data is only valuable if you can draw some conclusions, and that most efficiently can be through graphical representation. So that's the point, that you need to have the graphical representation to proceed and make any technology of, like in today's world, useful. Yeah.
Yes, no, excellent. But my question would be now, because as you said, yeah, you work in this data fields. For me, it could also be very interesting if I try to generate an idea. Is that if I would have like billion of data points, what if I write an algorithm who visualize me those data points differently, so that I can maybe visualize any given space or object or assets only driven by those data points. I find those things very interesting, because basically it's like visual graphics, but what if it would be in two-dimensional spaces or stuff like that? So I always ask myself that, because I mean, stupid comparison, but like animals and insects, they live in the same reality we do, but their eyes, they're visualizing the surroundings totally different. Yeah, and this is what I often think in comparison. It's just our behavior and how we used to look at the world that we see the spectrum of light in that way. What would it be in the other way around, and what would it show us of the world?
Exactly. This is how basically we use data. I don't know how I can explain it with this, but if I just try to explain that, if in a certain building panel you have the forces acting, and you see the certain spread of forces, but now you want to enhance the ability of that building panel, then you will need to distribute the forces differently, and that you can only see by visualization.
Yes.
Like you run analysis and then you see that now the forces are spreading differently. And with the concept of BIM, you can actually see very quickly that if you integrate that member right across, like just with a one input into whole building, how you can see a different graphical representation of results in overall whole building experience.
Yes, excellent. I like that. Maybe I have a little story for that. I was in Vienna at the GCT summit, and there was one guy, I think it was from England, he programmed a plugin for Rhino. And what he did is that if you morph the object, it calculates that that the statics and everything is correct. Yeah. So that you only not morph the object, but you morph the object, and everything parameters are set like this, that you can take this part and you can build it, and it will hold. Yeah, it will last. And then the story continues, and I find it amazing. And then he goes by in the subway, in the tubes in London. And then he looks around himself. He goes like, wait a second, how did they construct those tunnels like 200 years ago? And then he started to research, and he found a book. And he said in those book, what he did actually, by drawing it, like in those three field visions, yeah, like ground floor, one side, the other side, they calculated graphically if the same thing was right. So he said, like, he did the same thing the people did like 200 years ago, just with different tools. So as you say, is data is dumb. It's the people who need to interpret this information and go to the conclusions to get things moving. Yeah. So the tools change, but the mind behind that is similar from my point of view. So the question is, how and what of graphic representation could accelerate this process? And I have no idea, but I would love to find out in the future.
Yeah, I don't know if we have time for that now, but if I could just share my screen for
yes, please. We take ourselves the times. That's why I call it a workshop.
Yeah,
and not a look shop. How do I do that? Wait a second. I have to. Amelia, oh no, here it stopped. Oh, thank God, Amelia saved me.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So, for example, this is just my one of my like my recent master thesis has concluded, where we are like trying to enhance.
I love it. It looks like sushi. Yes.
Yeah, like where we are trying to enhance the capacity of a plate, like thin plates. So we don't need to make very thick plates, but we can reduce the material. So the concept is basically that if we make such sort of bubble sort of patterns on the plate, can we enhance the buckling capacity? And that we were only like one of the aspects we were able to assess, that if we are able to change the buckling mode of these plates, I think it's little difficult to see it here, but I will just try to pick up some good example. For example, this is what a typical how a typical plate was behaving, but by the introduction of these bubbles, we were able to change this behavior into this. If I was seeing this in numbers, I would have never been able to get that point that this will work. But when I get a graphical representation, I see it right away that buckling mode has changed. So now my behavior has enhanced. So this is like only a one application, that now I can put this concept into multiple other applications in building and reduce overall weight of bridges or some oil tankers or anything like that. But this is all due to our ability to process large number of data sets. For this project, we ran around something like 30,000 analysis with a Python code and something. But exactly, now when we get results and see them graphically and see the pattern, then we can draw, okay, this is amount of bubbles we need to have, or like offsets or anything, indents you can call those, to have this sort of behavior, and then we can have the enhanced behavior. So I think there comes in the point to have very good techniques of graphical representation. And like there is one advanced computing center in Texas that has a whole dedicated graphical representation center with its supercomputer, where data from the supercomputer is organized by another organization within the department to see and visualize the data and then take out conclusions from that.
Excellent. I love it. It's an excellent example. I think it fits perfectly into the question of how graphical representations could benefit in working with it.
Yeah, so this is something like, as I told, that it is results from many analysis, and then we see through graphical representation, okay, this is where we get things done.
Maybe, did you ever heard of Konrad Zuse?
Sorry?
Konrad Zuse. He was a German engineer, and he was one of the inventors of the computer itself. And he wrote a book. It's called The Calculating Space. And he refers to the theory that the space we live in is something like a big computer. If you took it back and it's calculating itself. So if you have change in these equations and you see them, then you can react to them. It's a very interesting part because he wrote it like in the 60s or 50s about that. Maybe that could also be an interesting book for you to add on to your studies. I like it very much. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll just look into it.
No, just popped on my mind. Maybe I'm totally wrong, but who cares? This is why it's called a workshop and not only a talk shop, right?
Yeah, it's very interesting.
So, here I am. Can you see my screen? Excellent. So
Yes.
thank you. Excellent. Excellent that you record it, so I don't have to write anything down. We can look it up in the video afterwards. Let's hope the video doesn't get shot by some kind of data malfunction. So next question, asset identification. Just the theory to say, okay, now I have something like a bubble, a building, a 3D thingy, whatever, yeah? So there are like 15 buildings look alike. Interesting story from a construction site. So there are construction site that do 2 buildings look very much alike. The construction team goes into this construction site. Basically what they should have done is to go right to the building. They go left to the wrong building. They put the whole pipe system into the wrong building, yeah? That was a good idea, just the wrong timing. The whole piping system needs to go out again, costs a lot of money. Why is that so? Both things look very much alike, yeah? If anything would have told them what a different idea is, made digitally or just by looking up at a piece of paper, this error wouldn't have had happened. So my point of view is to say, even if we have a graphical representation or we don't, we need a clear ID, yeah, to narrow down the information point or the identification point of that given asset. Why is that interesting? Because in the think of metadata or data itself, if I have this classification system, I could connect points together, which I could never barely understand in the first hand. But it gets difficult because comparison. I have a building, I have rooms, I have spaces, I have the window, I have the screw of the window. How far can I go down? And who has this classification? I have no answer to that, but this needs a system, yeah? At the end of the line, I always say, because let's say you have a 3D point cloud. Every point there is, or zone of points, if you give them an ID, you created a certain volume, which can be also understood as something particular, digital represented for a part of a building, of a lung, or a person per se. So this rule or this idea applies to almost everything from my point of view. So basically, you need this graphical representation. Damn it, I didn't change the German thing back there. I forgot. Yeah, I will change this later, like the Platon double T. Okay, you can cut this out, Emilia. You can cut this out, right? No problem. You can cut this out by waving it, yeah? And you need to combine this. But equally, does one thing need the other? Yes and no. The computer would not need the graphical representation. It could only work with the IDs, yeah, with the information data points that you've been given. And that's the interesting part, because if you connect those two things, basically you do connect the human mind to the machine learning with this behind that, but a simple rule from my point of view, yeah. So this identification is a very strong asset. And now I have a little excursion. It's something just to show whether, from my point of view, the areas connect and also disconnect from the work of how the building information modeling or actually management works. Because basically the BIM workflow represents a 3D object and I put some kind of information on that. Is that a background for a digital twin? Yes, it could be. I mean, all those processes that are connected to have a BIM workflow, it could potentially lead to a digital twin. This is very interesting because we have a verge of a construction industry who is willing to go to 3D all in, yeah, for those things. Not now, but maybe in 10 to 20 years, because they get it, they spare more money to that. And you have standardized data formats behind that. Yeah, you have like employer information requirements, you have a BIM execution plan, is the things that I wish and the things that I get just written down as rules of the projects. I have certain use cases to get to those goals. And the most interesting part is you need to have a common data environment, so to speak, a single source of truth. In theory, in practical parts, it's not really working, yeah? Why? Because just upload it, who cares, yeah? Where all those things come together, and this is where it gets interesting, because you could, if the city would provide something like that, just suck in all those data, and you have a wonderful data platform to have all those simulations running and see and test what they could basically do. So yes, the workflow breathes potential for that to lead into the digital twin. But does it have to? Is it truly necessary to that point of view? Yeah, this is up to discussion behind that. I mean, this is just a standard little diagram. I don't want to overdo it. This, what I show you now, is something which is also fancied as these different levels of BIM, yeah, to come. To say I have like classic CAD software, I have 2D, 3D, I have like the BIM workflow where everybody works in 3D and communicates over that. And then afterward, I have something like a building lifecycle management. Quick question though. There is something like a format, an ISO standardized format. It's called IFC, Industry Foundation Classes. And every time when I visited Building Smart, I don't go there anymore because why would I? I raised my hand and say, okay, one stupid question. So you generate a data format, yeah, which is readable with every other software per se. Did you ever think about an archive format? Something that can be opened like PDF archive in 25 years. No, we did not. If you did not think about it or have it on your roadmap, how can you talk about lifecycle management? Because if every data I have is useless trash after two years because you bring up an update to anything you have, where does it lead? But it indicates that this integrated web services have data salt systems to brief the potential for this data for digital twins. So yes, the BIM workflow could generate into that, but it doesn't have to. BIM needs the digital twin for the future development. From my point of view, why is that so? The simulation will break apart at a certain moment, yeah, because you cannot 3D model everything on the construction site. But a scanning of a building, yeah, or like we just saw those other things, those graphical pinpoints, there can also and will be also a part of a digital twin. BIM is not the digital twin doesn't need the BIM data, but it could evolve through that. And these are those two big different things. The digital twin is everything which is a physical entity, but the BIM workflow relies only on the construction industry per se. Yeah. And it can add up to the process, and this is where this difference comes in. Yeah, just to understand the difference behind that, because what Jörg showed today is like IoT, BIM, and can on city level go over that. That's true, but the digital twins, they don't stop at the construction industry. They could be proven of every entity given, because it's a human being in the construction industry. Yes, it is, but it will not be 3D simulated. So just to have this thing spoken up, because it's always on the tip of my tongue if somebody talks about this, to give you the point of this difference behind that. So this is my input of how those identifications could define and could change, be a total game changers. Now back to the group. What is your idea? What you fancy about the strategy, about these things? And remember, it's 16:34 now, and we have 2 topics ahead, 3 more to go. So we have 90 minutes. So we still have some time to talk about these things. Yeah. So what are your ideas for the asset identifications?
I guess first of all, it's level of detail, because typically for BIM, and not only BIM, for GIS systems, there's what kind of in which kind of level we are thinking of, and of course that each object has different sets of parameters and specifics, either IDs and all sorts of specifics. So I guess that's that you have to start with that, and because that determines the level of detail. Because for example, for window, if you're just like at very low level of detail speaking, then you just concerned if it's a window or a wall. But if you're into LOD 400, 450 or 500, you might be into the details of what's the dimensions for the still, what material it's made of, maybe even like what's the detail of connecting it, and so on. So I guess, not sure if this is what you had in mind for asset identification.
Yes, of course. Everything.
Yeah. So that's the first thing that comes to my mind.
But what I find interesting in that discussion is already to see, would it work the other way around? If I only would have the asset IDs, could I only work with that in any case given? Because you could reverse engineer a building through that. Yeah, you could say, okay, I would like to have those windows, and can you deliver the rest around that? Yeah, with those specifications. Would it work the other way around? Can I can I put like a game changer, say, I have like a simulation process, I go like, the result has to be like equation, mathematical equation. I would like to have this dimensions, but with this Windows qualities or energy level qualities. Could you reverse engineer from that the specific object? I think that would be also an interesting approach without the graphic representation. If a computer can do that. I mean, I know that ETH Zurich has a simulator for city planning itself, yeah, to say how could you with physical inputs change the shapes and the forms of that. But how deep and how far could those identification go to have really an impact? And the second question that I ask myself very often is, okay, so I have a system for IDs, and maybe you have a system for IDs, and maybe somebody else has a system of IDs, but how can they be harmonized with each other? Yeah. So what if it's Finland, Germany, and France do something completely different in ID identification? Yeah. How can it be an EU standard or standard behind that? Yeah. So this is one question nobody can answer me. Yeah. It's for example, like if you have a project and the classification for concrete, everybody thinks the same, but people writing it differently down. So there's a huge margin of error to go like C25/30 or C big, small, caps with space behind that. How do you write that? So who gives the standard for these IDs? This is something I don't know, but maybe you have an input for that, yeah?
I mean, even for BIM, I know that there are multiple standards just to determine the level of detail. So I'm sure that there's multiple of them already out there, not just for the level of detail, but a way of workflow and so much more.
A very big question that you opened there, actually, how you create standards and how harmonize data and the way data is organized in different systems. I mean, this is really the challenge of our time, because we now have the data, we start using it, we have all the tools that actually work with this data, and everybody would like to get a piece of the cake, become more influential in this business, and this is really quite a kind of a battle. Who is going to actually have their system placed on the market or in the national system? And it's a very big and very important question, I really think, that you posed there.
To describe it with the words of Mr. Burns from The Simpsons, excellent, yeah. Because the thing, I think this is what many people try to get is if they try to control the narrative of this so-called standardization, they want to push their product. But is product pushing the answer to ask about how to structure data, or can a research project from any university give clarity about that? I mean, this is something that is a huge topic, of course, because I think the market will handle it on a certain way, yeah, because you can think of something, yeah, but life comes differently. So this is how things evolve, yeah.
That's exactly the thing. You need all the actors, all the stakeholders in a way involved in this process. And what usually happens is you have more or less predominantly the market or predominantly politics. And then there is, of course, research. And that's the question, how do you find the balance between that? And it's, I can't answer this question.
I have also no answer, but this is why it's called the workshop, and let's try things out and not, hey, I have the answers, and by the way, thanks for the coffee and goodbye. So yes, this is one of those things that always comes into my mind. And also as if talking about those IDs is what I find interesting. If you would put in a smart semantic, yeah, of how to level those things, what impact would it have on machine learning or developing of AIs behind that? Because the graphic thing is for the humans, yeah, it's to get it, yeah. But what would the machine do if there would be a smart system behind that? And what would it have to look like behind that? Or is it already there and we just don't know it? Because I know different approaches to try to categorize that, and I find them all very appealing, interesting. But at the end of the day, what will decide, from my point of view, if it will go through or not? It's the functionality. It's this KISS methodology. Keep it simple and smart. Because if it's an asset to you in your daily life, it will somehow involve to that. I will never forget the soundbite record I heard once about one of those famous Microsoft guys when the iPhone was released, and he goes like, a telephone without buttons, this will never work. Yeah, not so smart speaking it out loudly or some things. Yeah, now everybody has a smartphone. What will be the next thing? So actually with its ID things, what the interesting part for me would be, how do other industries work with that? How do maybe data specialists work with that? And what is basically today the most common semantic being used behind that? So those are the fields where I have no answer for that. Yeah, but I put it to discussion because I think it's a very huge field, and people try to cover those fields to get control their products running, whatever. Yeah, but this will change through over time. And our question as researchers, scientists, company people, whatever, is maybe to reflect on that and get some ideas. I don't know. Yeah, but this basically, yeah.
I have 2 cents. Like, I don't know how it's going to put in words, but as we can do for everything like lengths or heights or widths, we basically have certain non-dimensional length like 1 meter. Okay, 1 meter, and everything is scaled to it. Like this is 10 meters, this is 50 meters, this is 70 meters. Can't we make such a system like non-dimensional system for all the IDs also, and all the people across the world just scale it according to them? Like in my project also, and many of other structural engineering applications, we people across the different part of the world use different units. So what basically we do that we change all our results into non-dimensional parameters, which are not dependent on any of the units or anything. It's just a number, and irrespective of what units you use, it will still come out to be same. So can't we do something like that with IDs? And the second question I have, is there any way we can include the process of verification of results in BIM and this whole concept? Because a lot of data can be generated with wrong inputs. And if there can be a real-time check of data verification also, like just for example, can there be like if a solar intensity is always bound to have a in certain number, but I don't know what it is, just saying 0.15 to 2.2. So can there be a check of real-time check when data is uploaded to more digital twin, that it can quickly run through a verification check that okay, certain parameters and certain aspects are modeled correctly, that this data can be studied further, or rather than I go on and studying this data and using this data to a very later stage and then discover that okay, something is wrong, and then I go backtrack each and every parameter.
Yeah,
So,
I think that sounds very, very appealing. What you offer here is to say that there's a verification process for uploading it, because why I was smiling is like, it's interesting because people use different scales to describe the same thing. Yeah, if it's centimeter inches, but if you go like this, if I show you, it's like this long. Yeah, then actually this is the same thing we're talking about, and I think it's also with the IDs that we need like a positioning system where it's generated, at which timestamp, and that's it. Yeah, and what's the thing that it's trying to describe at the end? Yeah, what I'm trying to describe, and then it's the language doesn't care, because the description could also be the native language, which then can be translated automatically. So I think it's a key value formula that could be standardized, because with the key values you can always change them, but they always be the same, like geographics, what ID it has, or where was it loaded up from, with which timestamp, which zone, and things like that. Yeah, because it's so funny, because we always try to describe reality as something that is totally fixed. But when I read about this how was it called, gravitation waves, yeah, that they try to prove it, that the space and stretches, yeah, at a certain moment. I was like, oh, that's funny. It's like a bubble, yeah. We try always to describe something as fixed, but it's not, yeah. So we don't even witness that if things get stretched around like that. And maybe it's something like this as well. Yeah, I mean, we just try to describe something which is maybe already there and it's maybe already used. But I think your idea is very good of having a verification process while uploading it to a single source of truth if that is synchronized. So to just check up if everything is at the data backend implemented that is correct and can maybe not be falsified at a certain moment. Yeah, because if you have a system, you can always corrupt it. And the question is, why would you do that? And then it would be interesting how the corruption process works. Yeah, but that's a huge field. Any more questions, input? Yeah, please, Monique. Yeah.
I'll just add on to your point that because going through this whole process of research in like past 1.5 years, I have felt that many of times we even like research papers are some sort of things that we generally say that if they are from a reputable publisher that they would be the correct and that was like a trustable data. But when I try to redo things, the results don't come exactly same. They are manipulated at times. So I think our one of the streams within the research should be like to focus on verification of data uploaded. And I think with the digital twin where models can be uploaded and all the things can be done, I think that could be a very big step to like fast pacing our movement towards like the future and what we want to bring out in terms of sustainability and better use of resources and everything.
Yeah.
So
well, yeah. Well, actually, I think it's a very good idea because, as Jörg Nöning today said, is that the research budget is enormous for all those research things of a digital twins because they have bunches of money. I don't know what to do with that, and everybody now fancies digital twins, and this is an excellent blah 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 blah. But pinpointed, and I think to fund research will be easier done in the future if you can pinpoint and narrow those problems down. So
yeah,
I think research wise, Emilia has to say one thing or two because she loves to print out those little papers I hate so much, right? With all those little numbers I have to fill in. I'm in trouble now.
No, you're not in trouble, but I'm not ready for a comment right now.
Damn it. Okay, but I'm just saying, yeah, the research people should be the ones who also can think about these things because we tried to hand in several projects also with the Fraunhofer. It's the process is interesting, but also plainly stupid because you have to narrow down very complex things into 10 or 20 pages. Yeah, I think you know the process. And so everybody reads it who maybe has not a full view on how it works together. And it decides if some grant will be funded or not. So maybe this process also has to change. Any more input to asset identification? Because then I would go to the next point because I think we're good in time. We have like 90 minutes left.
It is no problem if we finish a little bit earlier because I don't think that you planned a break. So we can finish at 6. So it's also
okay. We can plan a break if anybody has.
No, I think it's better if we just go through it because otherwise, if we make a break, I'm afraid it will be hard to come back, and people can all the time for a moment, maybe use 5 minutes to have a short break and come back.
Perfect.
Unless you need a break, that's another question.
Oh, it's fine, Emilia. It's just keep pushing. My heart is. No, it's okay. It's okay. So the next stage would be, and this is why I try to put it as a description is the word platform. Why? Maybe I don't know. It's the right description for that. It's also wrongly written. Damn it! Yeah, I put the German text in. We can cut this out. There will be only one T left. Yeah, and the development of digital twin, from my point of view, goes simultaneously with the development of the internet per se, because structure-wise, uploading those huge data streams was not really some reflex that you could have done, but now with all those streaming platforms and all those interconnections that you have over the World Wide Web, it breathes the possibility to have a digital twin platform, whatever that might be, because those huge data streams, from my point of view or perspective, how can you possibly manage them on one way or the other? Yeah? I mean, you just imagine having something as a backup order locally, and then your like my laptop just dies, or all the data is vanished. Yeah. So even I see no other way than that the internet becomes the digital twin platform, or already is the digital twin platform that we are so used for. And then the logical next part with live data is, of course, IoT is then the next logical step behind that, because it interconnects everything behind that. But it's a certain pillar behind that, because only connecting stuff doesn't classify it that it brings benefit to the digital twin. It can also cause disturbances, or if you cannot pinpoint down what you want to connect. So I will talk about later about IoT in my experience, because it's huge and it's fancy words and it's a lot of lights and smoke and stuff like that, and mirrors. But at the end of the day, is if you go like, show me your sensors, and they go like, well, we have like 10, you go like, okay, that's cool. And there are other criteria behind that. So from my point of view, all those things will be defined on the platform that will be provided to work with all those things. And this is something which has something like a bad spin behind that, because what most companies are trying to do is, of course, to bring you to their platform, because then you have your data, and data is king. Yeah. If I have the data, I can strongly use this data as raw oil and have a lot of, let's say, keys in my hand to open doors you don't even know about that. So basically, this own restriction data platforms is something that grows naturally, but also provides some kind of risk behind that, because Amazon Cloud, AWS, is it really secure? Big question there. And what are the strategies on how to bring that up? And if I have something on a platform, how to secure the platform? Is it secure? Is it risky? Can anybody enter it? Or because everything is there, nobody will find it? Maybe if everything data is there, and I maybe scramble all the ID numbers, you can see it, but you don't understand what it is. So there are much different approaches how you could secure those strategically. The question is, did anybody ever thought about that in creating a digital twin? Because mainly the platform decides if you can get that thing running, yes or no. Because like with every tool or asset or thing that should benefit you in your daily work, if you push a button and it doesn't work, you get frustrated. Things you get frustrated with, you naturally don't work with. And if you don't work it, it loses its benefit. And if it loses its benefit, it will stop to exist. It's that simple. Yeah, you will not go back to the old printer where you take like 30 minutes longer just to kick it like 5 times and you get not the printouts. Yeah, you will go to the thing that goes smooth and easily. So the platform will decide on the speed and acceleration and technical specifications if the digital twins can survive and be a custom or something that helps people in daily lives. Yeah, because what if internet goes down? Many customers says to me, yeah, but if I don't have the internet, then I have the most things don't running. I say, this is correct. But if you don't have electricity, your things are also not running. So what's the difference between those two things, please? Yeah, I mean, yes, there are differences, but the internet is something that it equals like electricity in the old days. And one thing comes with the other. Not to forget with that we live in certain parts of the European Union. Well, if you go to Stuttgart, where Bosch and Daimler sits, you don't have internet connection in the train, by far, or can telephone. Why is that so? I have no idea. Yeah, I cannot answer you this question. So having the idea is not enough. If you face the real world, we are light years away to get some stability into there. And the risk behind that is also interesting because it will only benefit the main spot areas of cities. What's with the rural areas? Yeah. Why could I not sit somewhere landside in Finland and do the same things I do here in a little house and have no connection like that? It only depends if I'm connected to the net, yes or no. And this is something, a strategic thinking, yeah, in infrastructure developing through the whole European Union, where I can see in my daily life, it's not working, yeah, in certain parts if you go to the land side. And it destroys the economic possibilities of many, many companies that are not connected to that, yeah. Big issue, yeah, but platform is basically the king. So as I said, from my point of view, cloud-based and web applications are the cornerstone of any digital twin, yeah, if you like it or not, because nothing else can have that response time that immediately shows you what's up to date and what is happening behind that. And so the platform thing is one of the crucial factors if you can get any kind of, let's say, pilot project operational digital twin running, because if the platform is an issue, the whole project is an issue. And if you work with big companies together, it's critical. Basically, if you hear the words IT guy, it's over, yeah, because if you talk with certain IT people in big structures, they go like, no, we don't do that right here. Yeah, it's very difficult for us. You have no chance in hell to survive, because nobody else is then allowed to work with those tools. And this power shift needs to be done somehow to get those things running. Yeah. So this is one of those major parts where I see the biggest problem to get a big and wide spread out for the operational phase of any kind of digital twin inside the IT structures and infrastructures to keep them running. Yeah. And people not being concerned to say like, we usually did that the other way around. Yeah, there's something you're saying. Let's in Bavaria, it's Bavaria firewall. Yeah, the Bavaria firewall goes like this. Bavarian firewall. You talk to somebody, it goes like, nah, we always did it like that. We never did it the other way around. And why would I change my behavior? So basically, you have to answer the same question 3 times to get people moving somewhere. Yeah, and this is the kind of mindset that destroys this change management behind that. So my question here is, I don't know if you heard about Gaia X, the project of the European Union, like if there's a system, like a solution to all our problems in that kind of field. And I would like to put the discussion, if maybe the platform-based side, something like Gaia X, if you heard about that, yeah, could be a cornerstone for working with digital twins. So what do you think about platform?
I think you should explain a little bit what's Gaia X, just maybe.
Okay. As Gaia X, okay, there's a project of the huge companies of the European Union, and the European Union said, listen, we don't need Amazon Cloud or stuff like that. We will build our own European cloud system, which is called Gaia X, yeah? And every standardization will be the same. It will be the safest platform in all the world, in all the never lands, and Peter Pan will fly by. And then the telecom said like, yeah, you got it running, but we need contracts to fill it with life. Yeah, we need the things to get running behind that. And the second error that they made so far is to say like, okay, we put on also American companies into the Gaia X project. And they went like, wait a minute, we wanted to make a European project, and now you put all those people to write those standards. So why are we doing this again? And we talked with some people of Gaia X in the other project with the four of us together. And basically what we're working right now, we're working on a blockchain CDE. And we ask those people like, okay, I get it that you want to have European standardization servers and the providers and stuff like that, which I think is a great idea, because could synchronize a lot of things in the backends. But did you think about blockchain in those things? Because that would be really the game changer impact. It's like, no, too much data. I thought like, is it that too much data? It's a kind of strategy how to apply to the technologies. And this is, sorry, I thought like anybody heard about that? But this is actually the question that is interesting. If there are platforms for digital twins, and that seems to be like the most fragile part where you can get an operational twin running, yes or no. I mean, in pilot project, you can get it in small things, servers, even strong computers, who cares, yeah? But for widespread impact behind that, yeah, you would need a platform like this. And my question is, do you know any platform so far which you could say you could imagine to have a digital twin running operational on that?
Sorry, was that a question?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah, well, of course, Google definitely has something, and I mean, they have Google Earth and with all the, you know, properties and etc. But currently, the public version, I mean, there are two public versions, I guess. One thing that you could just explore and see what's out there, put on VR glasses and do the same. Then there's the other thing is that you could like do a small animation like Google Earth Studio, was it called, I think. So you could do some like Google Earth animation, but I'm sure there's multiple layers that could be added, or if not, they are already doing that, but not publicly, I guess, showing. I'm sure that, you know that the data is the king, as you did mention, and they have the data. It's only a question of how are they using or what they are doing with it, and in terms of, you know, building all sorts of analytic materials and processes.
But it's interesting because I have the same thought. I would automatically go to something I trust that it will work. Yeah. So I favor Google in many parts, which they what they do, because they get the show running. You know what I mean? It's just like it works. Yeah, and this is what you want. And the thing is, if you have a provider or somebody who provides a solution, and you get used to that, because this provider or this company or whoever it is makes it smoothly running, why would you look for another platform? You know what I mean? But on the other hand side, it briefs the problem to say like, yeah, but if you get stuck with that, maybe if you don't move outside of the comfort to see what else is there, maybe things will not change. They don't have to change, but you know what I mean? It's just to challenge the fact that the reality is this way. Why not challenge the fact if you could develop it into something else like that? And the negative and risky aspect is that, I mean, I remember like Bill Clinton having this one speech once who said like, yeah, and the Chinese tried to control the internet. It's not possible, believe me, we invented it. Yeah. And 25 years later, the story is much different. Yeah. You have a bubble around the earth, that you have a whole own system running with its own reality and social crediting structure, which if you go over the red light, you get minus points and then you don't get the credit from the bank. What is that? Yeah, to see how strong an impact this platform can be and how far and controlly it can be. And the question is, if you have now something highly functional and working like digital twins behind that, yeah, how would that affect the development of any common platform, or how would that platform look like? Which I have no answer to that question, but those questions are bothering me. Yeah, and that's why I'm asking it today. But maybe if you have a solution or an idea for that, because I believe that I believe it needs something like a vision to understand the physics behind it, how it works together, and then even somebody small could be a game changer behind that. Yeah, but I have no idea. I'm just speculating about that. Yeah. So anybody has more input or questions, ideas for platforms so far? Even if I'm incapable to writing it correctly in English, and always do the German thing with double T by reflex and not checking it again. I'm sorry about that. I will always. We can cut this out. We can cut this out. Yeah. Okay. Then let me go to the next
maybe
point.
then,
Yes,
now maybe there's nobody else. I was waiting if somebody would like to mention something. I was just thinking now about the digital permit. You know, the fact that how we have in the public system, when you really would like to get a permit for construction of a building and a construction site, then there is again this huge discussion. There is also the need of the platform. If you are going to have a digital permit for buildings where you have directly the 3D model submitted to the public authority for validation, and so that they can actually get the permit for construction, further planning. There is the big question, how do we create this platform? And it is this more or less the same question that you have. And there is the example of Finland, where there is already a private company behind it, and they actually have the cloud where they can store all this data. But at the end of the day, it's again a private company that offers this service for public benefit in a way. And so I was just thinking of this example.
Yeah, but that haven't been necessarily wrong. I mean, I think that the economy in the private sector pushes things much faster than having this decisions governmentally wise, right?
It does, but there is a question: how do you organize then the contract and the whole organization behind it? I just wanted to show the example that it is. We need this for all services, and we are used in the old-fashioned way before all this digitalization. We are used to think, and there is the public sector and there's the private sector. In a way, they're separated, and some data is obviously public data, like all our IDs, all the information of our birth and gender and address where we actually live. All this kind of data we are used to actually offer to our government systems. And we are really like, there is a huge fear. We are scared to share more data because, oh my God, what is going to happen with this data? But we've already shared the most important data.
Yeah,
and that's
you do it. You want you not, but you're not aware of it. It's sort of funny, right? Yeah, it's like the feeling, oh, somebody's watching me, but everybody's watching you. It's just the feeling behind that, right? Yeah, this is weird. I totally agree with you because. I also think that the question will be, I think BIM-wise, it's the common data environment who could be really the platform to collect all those things. And if you think the next step, it should be always the government who says, like, give me the data for the single source of truth, yeah, just to verify certain stuff, yeah. No, what should it be? It cannot be the digital twin that always reflects and goes and that. Because it briefs also a high risk and potential that people will misuse the information and the data behind that. But you can always scramble stuff and do double key stuff on data so nobody can read it on the first-hand side. So there needs to be a system. There needs to be a logic behind that platform idea. But the only thing I try to stress out is that from this 5 points to create Kickstart, the digital twin, the platform is definitely one of those things, and issues definitely or problem cases that needs to have some kind of solution. Not today, but just to pinpoint it. That's all. As you can say, let's put a pin in it, and come back to it later when it's not important anymore. Yeah, if somebody else solved it so far. Yeah, so platform. Huge topic in my.
How about open source platforms? Because otherwise, if we choose one or the other product, I mean, software producer, then we are always kind of locked in, because depending on how much and how fast the product developer wants to develop their product. Otherwise, if it's open source, if you know how to code it, or familiar with the language, you can always add the features that you are in need. But of course you have to do the coding on your own, but it would be viable and possible.
Yeah, but what I find strange are two things. It's like there's Linux, yeah, and I love Linux, yeah, because Linux Red Hat as well, yeah, you can do so many things, and it runs so smoothly, and it grew up and generated itself in one way or the other, because the idea behind that was is still very strong, yeah, behind these solutions. And the other thing, which I found weirdly, is the motivation behind that. So we're talking about digital twins. We're talking about something that could involve and reflect the real world and change the real world into some kind, connecting the simulation through it to accrue a benefit for society itself. What's with video games? So there are like millions of people sitting there and actually doing something like that just for different brand of motivation. Yeah, it is a perfect simulation of our real world, but it's just fictional. So and why is that? I don't know if it's narcissism or it's ego. It's the joy to play something that is not possible. Yeah, but the tools are there, and you can see that if there is a bug or something going wrong in an online game, dude, 600 people, they just script it down and then they repair it by themselves because they want to play that game. Why is it not with something like that? And that's, I think I really like your open source idea, because that could also be one of the possible solutions to that problems. But I think it just needs general buzz, you know, it needs to have some kind of joy or fan factor or something. Hey, this is gung ho, you know, because if you have to do stuff and you don't want to do them, it's like, it's just, you sit there and go like, Jesus, really, really, do I really have to fill out those forms again? Yeah, because somebody lost them. So this is no fun, no joy behind that. Yeah, that could be one of the impacts to the platform stuff. Yeah, or not. Good. I would skip to the next and just show something to give you an example what we're working on right now. So I mentioned we have this funded project for Moby Dick. It's called. It's a mobile learning container for the construction site. Our part is we provide the common data environment, and we are in charge that anybody programs their solutions on our platform. And we're not finished. We use it for our own projects. It's not that smoothly running as I would be happy to. I'm just showing you now a demo version to show you the idea. Because why? Of course, I want to show off. No, it's not only that. I want to show you if you have an idea and you want to do it, even with a small team and a small budget, you can get things moving. Yeah, you just have to do them. If you don't do these things, if you don't set one foot next to each other, you will not walk down the path. You will just suddenly go like, I could walk down that path easily, but let's do this tomorrow because today's yoga class, I will do something else. Just walk the walk. Yeah, that's what I want to say. And basically what we try to do is we try to connect the planning phase, the building phase, and the operational phase to providing a common data environment that is blockchain based. You go like, why? Why would I need a blockchain for that? Who needs a blockchain anyway? I said, wait a second. Basically, people always fight about the same things. Yeah. Did you deliver that to me? Did I receive it for the real time? Did I get it at the moment that you really gave me that? And the second thing which is interesting, can you prove it in the court? Yeah. And basically how it works with any kind of platform is that somebody gives you a key to the platform. And basically it's the employer. So if you want to go to the guy who gives you the money and you go like, wait, I deserve more money from that. He takes this key away from you. How will you, bloody hell, prove that you delivered this information? Because court-wise, he doesn't have to give you the access to that. A blockchain thing would prove two things. The one thing is that every block contains, and it cannot be easily changed, who did what, when, with what indication. And the second is because if you agree to that and it's parked on different kind of servers, anybody of those parties could reconstruct that block. Yeah, this chain with the users behind that, and that would just give you some democracy back into the running projects behind that. Just to give you the general idea. How did I get to that? I don't know. One way or the other, just said, let's try this out. Another tech guy. He's crazy. He's like 55, has long hair and pink shoes, and this is how he goes to big companies. And he's the guy who's behind that. So what just I'm showing you now is the thing how we try to work with that to give you an example how we try to approach that. Yeah. So I thought you have the graphic representation, and we have some kind of ID which is behind that. Yeah. And we call these just like KISS-BIM, and we have like two states. The one thing is Sollzustand. It would say like, this is a simulation, this is how it has to be. And basically what happens is we generate a workflow where basically everybody comes together, we look at the model, and then we use the BCF BIM collaboration format, which is an open standard, to give tasks. Yeah, so it's like a post-it, a digital post-it, which you put on the issue, on the subject, and anybody can communicate like that. And we are trying to use this as a BIM manager to spread the tasks to the people who need them. They don't need any kind of software. They just need to connect web-based with their account to the CDE, and that's it. And then we can discuss it, and everything is saved there or uploaded there and can be directly discussed there. So what's the benefit of there? Basically, you can use the simulation, which is there, and connect it with the IDs that we've got there. And on the base layer, the blockchain is running. And through that, we can verify at which time which persons communicated and solved what issue. Why is that important? Because if things go south, and I did my work well, why do I need to be scared? And nobody can manipulate the data. Nobody can erase stuff and claim false information behind that. And that gives me the security to work confidently with all those things behind that. And this is one approach to go there, to use the simulation and to have this BCF workflow to continue that through the simulation phase for construction industry. But what happens on the construction side? Because I said, yeah, wait a second. On the construction side, the 2D model can help me on a certain part. I don't see the errors. I don't see what really is happening there. Yeah. So how can be a digital twin created to that? So what we want to do is we want to use these BCFs as the one common denominator in the whole project workflow. So that means if somebody scans the object afterwards, yeah, you go there with any kind of scanner, you create a point cloud, or you have those 360 pictures. The task information, they stay the same, yeah, they stay the same. So I can go into the same task, yeah. It's also one of those business things, and I can go, and of course I don't see all entities, but I can use those web things and I can maybe measure stuff and I can see, okay, has the column the real height that I needed? Is the problem solved? Yeah. And all those things, the graphic representation feeds to the blockchain platform to have one ID string to go through the whole project line to the end of that. And if that works, you would have one grounded database to operate the building afterwards and continue this workflow if you want to. So the next step would be to connect IoT and live data for it, but let's not overdo it at the beginning. Let's try to handle these things first, which are we working for. So why am I showing you this? I'm in favor to say, put the money where your mouth is. So when I'm talking about these things, I just don't want to be theoretical, go like, yeah, I have an idea, I just, however. We try to finish that. And even sometimes we fail, we do not succeed. It's not the failure. It's you learn every day something new if you don't go to the end, but you always get a feeling for that. It's like the example with the graphics. You go like, now I understand. I learned something from that, and now maybe have a different view on those things. And this is why I come up to classify this in these 5 fields, because it's at the end always the human factor that describes and defines and changes the perspective how any kind of digital tool is be used at the end of the day. Because if it doesn't bring us together in collaboration, what is it good for? Yeah, maybe it's just an obstacle that nobody needs. Yeah, so let me get now to the most interesting part, and this can be filled like with thousands of examples, which I will not do because you can Google that all by your own, yeah, with 3,000 YouTube videos, yeah. I want to show something different, and I want to show you something different. It's like, so if you have a digital twin, yeah, and you have live data information, which I would call, what are those live data points or information that you get? So it could be a task that I put up so that somebody has to solve something. Could it be a 3D scan? Yeah, is that something that represents something? Because it has certainly a graphical value, but it also has a coordination system behind that. Yeah, or maybe in the very stupidest level that is given is maybe a scanned document, which is 200 years old, but shows me the ground floors and gives me maybe value information. Yeah, I mean, being digital doesn't mean to be arrogant and say we have to do everything digital. No, people had huge vast knowledge like decades ago, centuries ago. We should tap into that and try to learn something from that. What if you use OCR software to scan regular thousands of picture documents to learn something from that? Isn't that also some kind of live data? Yeah, maybe in the past, but I could also, if I ID it to a certain project, ID it to a certain problem that I want to cause behind that. Or cannot be a 360 picture, or maybe a picture from my phone. I mean, we have so many people on construction site, they use WhatsApp as a tool. Yeah, I once, one neighbor showed me that he had something fixed in his bath or whatever, and the handyman was talking all the things on WhatsApp. So he was recording it with a very funny German accent he wasn't aware of, what he did today and what he has to do and what he has to do, like 14 minutes. Yeah. The thing I want to say is, if people see a benefit, they will start using it. Yeah. But the most precious part behind that is actually the huge topic of sensor data. Sensor data has so much potential, and it's basically everywhere almost. But did you know how sensor data was developed? It basically came through the car industry. So if you go to startups, different companies, and we did with Andy Golub some things about the digital twin with Bosch together, and the things that if you see on a huge scale, they're so amazing. Because if I go like to a smaller company and go like, okay, you like have a web cluster for sensor data, I like the idea. Quick question: can you send me tomorrow 30 million sensors? They go like, yeah, that could be on top of an issue. I say, okay, I get that. Yeah. So if you want to talk IoT, you need a huge infrastructure to get that thing running. Yeah, like somebody who prints out millions of those babies a day. And the second thing is the platform running it in a backyard. Yeah, because if you cannot reach this information or the traffic is too difficult, it's dying, because it's no fan factor behind that. Yeah. So the question is behind that: what actually is live data and how do we describe it? Is it only measured by sensors, or is it something like that represents something like a movement at a certain moment? Yeah. My question to the group: what do you think about live data or live sensors or anything else like that in connection with digital twin? Because the first reaction would be sensors, IoT, but I think it goes far more behind that. Yeah. What's your point or topic? It is a question.
I mean, it depends where you get the data from. I mean, ideally, everyone is wearing a sensor right now. I mean, I'm referring to the smartphone, but then again, it's GDPR. How do you get to it? And then you have to press a lot of accept, plus develop your own software, and then that doesn't have that many users. So how do we get it, I guess, is the key thing.
Yeah, it's true. But for example, I mean, I have a blood sugar sensor on my arm, yeah, that pins and measures my blood sugar every second of the day, and I can get the data and check my blood sugar. So basically, it makes me a cyborg, yeah, because my life depends on that, yeah, and that's what's today's standard, yeah. So if people ask me, is sensor data working? I say, yes, it is. Most definitely it works, yeah, in one way or the other. Yeah. And that's just the medical part. Yeah. Just think about what other kind of information could be put in, or could be measured, or could be predicted. That is so interesting. But what if you say the movement and the flows of people, and you can predict how they would behave by their profile, which is behind that. Yeah. So this really breathes a lot of potential. Or on a other example, let's say you have a map of Hamburg, and this map of Hamburg has sensor data, and it shows you the air pollution, yeah, of Hamburg per se. Now you want to buy yourself an apartment. Would you check this data to see what the air quality is, the apartment you want to spend hundreds and thousands of euros for? I bet you will. The next question would be, why is this not connected? Why is the price of the apartment that you want to buy not directly connected with the quality of life in that area per se? And I think those calculations and those examples, they can truly impact on, let's say, the common people, yeah, because this is how you can generate maps, and those maps are being generated right now as we're talking about that. If we know that they are generated, how can we connect them to interact with each other? Because only because it's there doesn't mean that we can access it per se. The question is, how can you connect those things that are already there? Most of the things we don't know that they exist. Yeah. So how prove the existence of what kind of live data is already existing so far? I don't know. I don't have the list or picture, whatever. I just struggle on some other projects or other research things that are people come around the corner. Yeah, I found this, and we are working about right now. It's like, that's amazing. Yeah. Why didn't I hear about that before? Yeah. So to generate a digital twin, yes, you need live data, and yes, you need to have those connected to that. But the two questions arise. The one is what is already there, and if something is developing, how can it be automatically generated and connected to something which is a digital city twin level behind that? Yeah. So the possibilities, they are huge behind that. Yeah, and already developing, and it's no need to be scared about them. It's for myself, it's just a certain point in kickstarting a digital twin is to discuss this kind of data. Yeah. And I'm not saying information, I'm saying data. Yeah. Because information is something else than data it is. Yeah. So data, really dump data. Yeah. That we can visualize or connect in one way or the other. Yeah. So what kind of experiences do you have with this kind of data fields that you maybe encountered in your cities or in your where you live? You don't have to answer it. Just
may I ask you quite maybe a provoking question?
Oh, please, yes.
Yeah. It's not even that I would fully support what I'm saying now, but
okay, perfect.
it just came to my mind. For example, I use a lot of kind of live data when it comes to ski racing. So ski racing.
Ah, ski racing. Okay.
Okay, nothing to do with building industry right now. But
why? It's also digital data.
So basically, you're on, like in the place where weather conditions maybe are changing. So you collect data with your cell phone. You attach a kind of sensor to your cell phone, which collects kind of humidity, temperature, kind of like falling air pressure or rising air pressure. You can also connect it to data that you collect from different levels above surface of snow, temperature, all these kind of things. It's possible to connect that again to existing data of ski axes. And by combining these different data and even exposure to like sun or orientation, north, south, blah, 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 it proposes some ski axes. So this is somehow it's genius, and it's really helpful, especially when you have to react very quickly on given situation or changing situations. On the other hand, if you just follow this advice, you're in a kind of, at least I feel it a bit, you're in a trap of R&D. So because you're using what's already there, so you're not very creative in a sense, because you're not active, but you're kind of like passive somehow. So you would not, so you select from a given range of things that are available, but you would not come up with, okay, let's put some Swiss cheese on my skis, right? To make them faster. So you're not creative in the sense that you come up with very weird, very out of the box solutions.
Yeah.
So that's my question back to you somehow. Where's the creativity then?
Nowhere. I think the digital twin is just like a bureaucrat in one way, a digital bureaucrat who's just a vacuum and sucks up stuff and puts them in relation to that. And I think the human interaction is to say, like, that's boring. Let's put some bananas on the pizza, yeah, or something like that, to jump out of the concept. But it helps to get the mass work done. Yeah, it's like having all the calibrations about your humidities and how the icing is and stuff like that. And basically, also it as I tried to explain, is the human factor is what counts behind all that. Yeah, and humans will always behave irrational because it's in their system to score like, yeah, but there could be something like electricity. I don't know how Nikola Tesla came up with some of his inventions, but on a certain point he did. Yeah, and it can benefit the information pool for this kind of people to maybe get some more creative ideas. So I'm not saying that the digital twin per se can be quite boring if it is just a vacuum like that, but if it generates itself, it can lay the groundwork for the people who work with that to go nuts bananas and invent some new things about that. Because the sexy thing would be, what is the difference between a computer game and a digital twin? It tries to simulate some real data, which is there. Yeah. The other thing is the simulation of a fictional reality in one way or the other. But having the groundwork, like the this knowledge network of verified information that's been shown from the reality, I can now start to do variations and try to get creative on that. So what I'm trying to say is, this one is the groundwork stuff, yeah, and we just try to see what's there, but it's only a tool. It's nothing worked without the human soul or interaction behind that, yeah. So this is the social factor, which is completely missing. Otherwise, it's just boring stuff, yeah. It's like how you would say, Encyclopedia Britannica, where people bought the stuff as the books, yeah, and I don't know one human alive who read all those books, yeah, but by digitizing them, where you can just Google it or get the stuff done, it gets interesting, yeah, because you can work much faster. So basically, the digital twin can be laid a groundwork as encyclopedia, but what's the next step, I think, would be really interesting in the development. Does it answer your question? I mean, it's just my opinion. It can be totally wrong. I don't know. Yeah, but this is just what I think is the next key step to all those things.
It basically matches with what I assumed somehow, but still, it's I mean, I don't know if it was in yesterday's keynote or is it another lecture that I just remember quite actively. It's about where the money goes, and when you compare companies from the last century and what are the kind of leading companies nowadays, like Alphabet and so on. The problem, and somehow we are kind of like, we are chasing our own tail somehow during the whole day today, I think, or I kind of like feel it like this, is that it always comes back to these fears and threats of personal data, and if we are kind of like big brother ideas and these kind of things, that this kind of like limits or is the misuse. And we have heard like from all these architects and engineers today, everybody is kind of like idealistically approaching these things.
Yeah.
At the same time, we know that military, Google, and these companies or institutions or entities have the money. So when I heard today that it's so expensive to get data from cell phones, this is nothing for the military. So
they
this
just,
is no.
They just take it.
Yeah, they just take it, or they have the money because they have billions. I mean, compared to research funding, for example. So, when it comes to kind of like unifying or standardizing, and this is kind of like exactly the world where architects don't want to be. Like it feels so boring and repetitive in a sense, and it's similar. What I also have in mind the whole day today is it reminds me of two things. One of my own experience. I did once a couple of years ago a CFD analysis for a huge membrane structure roof, lightweight structure roof, and it was about how to calculate the wind load on the surface. And you can subdivide the surfaces into different angles and exposure and so on. And I did that very precisely. I don't know how many patches I developed and did the calculation for all of them. And then I kind of like summed them up. And in the end, I just wanted to cross-check it. And I did it like a saddle-shaped roof, very rough. And in the end, the difference was in the third digit. So basically, compared to reality, it's nothing. And I was very disappointed because I spent like 3 days for the first approach, like doing it very, very precise. And this also, I was reminded of that. I read a lot about the Club of Rome, was kind of like founded or established when I was born, basically. And there is, at that time, they tried to create a kind of world formula for sustainability and material use and limits to growth. And they kind of expanded this formula constantly. So like the formula was growing and growing and growing and taking into account like millions of parameters in the end. And it turned out, or mathematicians meanwhile kind of like came to the conclusion that at a certain amount of volume, these formulas, they simply collapse to something very simple, because the difference is only, again, in a tenth digit.
Yeah, but
so
I think this is so funny because everybody dies one day. Yeah, that's natural, but it's for everyone such a big surprise. Yeah, oh no, yeah, say that. Yeah, but I mean, of course, it would be really sad, but 100 years from now, and I don't want to sit together like this now. I don't think that's not possible. And how much time we spend in blah 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 blah. You know, like to assure ourselves that the world is the way it is. Yeah, and I think that talking about digital twins, it could possibly brief. I mean, everything has a risk. Living has a risk per se. Yeah, and as you said, like military has a lot of money. That is true, but I always believe that the fun and the positive ideal will multiply in people's behavior, can in many ways. Yeah, so that means if I, for example, my mother is 75 now. She has a tablet and a smartphone, and she can use both of them perfectly. Why? Because she can communicate with her grandchildren. Yeah, that's the motivation behind that. So if you put the motivation first, that's how those tech giants are built up, and they fall down. Because like 150 years ago, you had railroad tycoons that were building railways through whole America. Where are those people today? Yeah, but they were one step in the evolution of society to that point, to bring the next stack of technology there. And if you think about that, and this is so amazing, yeah, that, for example, that we built in 30, 40 years satellites, yeah, that been shot into space and now reached interstellar space outside of our system, yeah, and only to imagine that in 40 years by technology, by learning how to do processes, by developing computers, and it all starts with an idea. It needs an idea, and no matter how stupid it is, but this is what Konrad Zuse thought, like, I have an idea, I could build a machine like this and paint pictures by the same way. So the flexibility. So the question is, it's like this here. You're totally right. It's boring, but on some point of view, it is just it's a step on the staircase to go to the next step, which we don't know what it is. But on the way through that, by structuring it in some way, it makes a narrative, and this narrative is always a story. And people function through stories. You will always remember how you felt with somebody and not what he talked about. Yeah, but on the one way, the narrative needs a good storyline, and the good storyline is to say, to synchronize those efforts, to say what are the structures for digital twin and what's maybe not working. But hey, at the end of the day, you need to test it. Yeah, and this is what I try to achieve today, to say to people, this is the way I look at it. Can be totally wrong, but who cares? But the thing is, you do it. You just do it in one way or the other. And like you did, you sit down 3 days and calculate stuff, go like, I want to know. I don't know why, but I had a stupid bet for 2 beers, but I want to prove it. Go like, oh, those just 3 digits. That sucks. But I made the experiments. So I'm a better human now. I don't know. But I learned something, and it changed to intuitions. Yeah. And I think only by doing stuff, we can develop ourselves. Yeah. And as you said, yeah, many people are scared for this and that. So what? Everybody gets scared of something. It's a feeling. It's like warm, cold. I'm hungry. I'm sleepy. I'm scared. The thing is the goal, you know, where you want to go with this. And this is why it's so interesting, this workshop, because now we have now 28 degrees. We could sit outside, drink a beer, not talk about that. Why are we doing this? So I think it's interesting. That's why. Yeah, it's just like, I have an idea. Did you think something in media like this? Yeah, I have an idea. And that's the essence of it. Yeah, it's through these little talks and little schemes, ideas can be generated that maybe develop 5 years later to something beautiful or horrific. Who cares? But it makes some kind of change, and that's attractive, I think. Yeah, this is why I'm doing these things, because I think it gives so much, like, how we could do this. You know, when you, like a kid, you play with stuff around it just on a bigger scale, and then it works or it does not, but you learn something, and that gives some kind of benefit for my purpose at the end. Yeah. That was a long monologue. I think it was 7 minutes. Sorry about that. Yeah.
It was a good motivation talk.
Yeah. It's just like it's
No,
just like
don't
blah
misunderstand.
blah
I
blah.
don't
Do
need
it.
motivation. I'm always motivated.
No, it was not.
It's
Don't misunderstand. Like, you know, no, no.
I agree to
No,
most
I
of what
just
you said.
you like skiing. You like
this is-
skiing with Swiss cheese, and you like calculating stuff with just 2 digits by that, right?
Yeah, it's a weird mix. This is also maybe a system to keep me kind of like awake in the sense of keeping me aware of possibilities, but also of the kind of like threats to something. And I think this is at least for me, it works in that sense, that to be aware of both sides, let's say.
But this is exciting if you can be like a scientist, if you can be a researcher, if you can be somebody who tries to get stuff done. We had one of the first projects from Fraunhofer together with the Bayern FM. It was scanning 85,000 square meters, yeah, with some devices who are not really working. And I was like, yeah, let's try. It could always go wrong. Yeah, but they're paying a lot of money and it could go wrong. Who cares? Let's try. Yeah, and it was finished. It was beautifully finished in one way. But why the numbers? I mean, if you don't dare, you will not succeed at the end. Yeah, that's the thing. Which brings me to the human soul. Yeah, I wanted to put a picture about soul and stuff, but I didn't find any proper pictures. So I'd like just leave it at that. Yeah, because as you said, what is it all good for if it's then not the human factor, the social spiritual factor, as Jörg would say, or as I would say, the human soul? Because what defines the human soul? I don't know, but I believe it sounds tacky if I describe it like that. But this is who you are. You know, it's something like you behave. It's something like that keeps you driving, and you don't know why. Yeah, you don't know why, but you know you do it in a certain way, and this is what should benefit from it. If that doesn't benefit from that, yeah, all those structures, it's worth nothing. Yeah, it's just like, oh, you've got the form from the 80s. Let's try to work it and kill somebody with the radiation, actually. Yeah. So it needs to benefit that on a scale of society as well. Yeah. And this is what digital transformation does on so many levels. It brings this human factor together, because see, through Corona, we learned all that online meetings are possible, which we did before that, but 80% of the people had to do that too now. And they are now on the same level and go like, yeah, right. So I could work from home. And the thing is, I work even more because I somehow don't know how to change then from work to private life. It's like you have the work laptop. Oh, this is so annoying. Thank God it's over. You open the laptop again. It's YouTube time. Yay, let's go like this. This is but you're just sitting at the same sofa, five centimeters to the left. No, it's totally different. It's all in your mind. And that's the thing about the human soul, what you want to say. It's the thing that defines us as people, and that's the point that's driving this whole parade and the show. Yeah. And if we don't realize that, and we don't pinpoint that, all those tools, all this BIM blah blah, and all these digital twins stuff, it's worth nothing. It should benefit the people. Yeah. And if it doesn't benefit the people, yeah, in a good or in a bad way, these kinds of what people it benefits, because this holistic collaboration of the digital twin, it makes things transparent. It's truly a single source of truth, if you think about that. Yeah, because you could turn around and go like, yeah, but what was the asset like 2 weeks ago? And you go like, yeah, then check the digital twin. Why you ask stupid questions? Okay, and then you go and check like, now I get it, or I don't understand it at all. It gives a certain amount of transparency, and it could only work if it's simplified enough. Yeah, it's not like, okay, now I can log in. What's my password? Emilia, what's my password? Is it with double T platform or with 3T? I don't know. No, I'm not using this. So it has to be simple as hell. Yeah. And if that is obtained with any kind of digital twins, then there's a kicker there. Then it could work. Then it could really benefit. So you have the whole infrastructure behind that, but at the end, it's a one-click solution. Otherwise, not digital twin on more, it will not work. Yeah. And that's what I want to say is the human factor, the collaboration between all those people who interact behind that is basically the main part behind that. The question now is, who are the stakeholders? So is it for fun? Is it maybe some AI? Is it maybe criminals who want to know certain stuff about you? What kind of cultural groups are interested to that? What kind of work groups are behind that? So basically, the digital twins in the developments can benefit all those people or not, but only if the digital twin benefits all the people or most of them, it can involve. Yeah. So the question is, if you want to kickstart something, you need to put it that simple and that form of communication that it works without words almost. Yeah. So you don't need a translator. You just get the picture, you get the information, the number or whatever. You're like, that's it. This is the thing I wanted to know. It is 55 degrees now and it's too hot in the bathroom. Yeah. Because you left the radiator open. It costs too much money. There you go. I have proof of that. So it's as simple as that, I guess. It's truly as simple as that. Yeah. So if I would put in a formula, so to speak, to make a huge formula, is to say you need three-dimensional things, you need a time, you need to be digital, you need a difference, you need a cloud, you need a benefit behind that. But can you really put it into a formula like this? I don't think so. I don't know. I only know that we try to describe something right now that is definitely on its way developing. And I believe it can really be generated, not by standardization research. Those are only steps to the doorway, but only if it brings benefits to the common people. Yeah, it's like the invention of shoes or bread or a house or a roof or something like that. Yeah, or a smartphone or a wheel. So it will generate a tool that we not question ourselves in the future why and if, but only ask you, did you get the update or something new that is behind that? So my question is, if we go to the lessons learned, I want to show a fancy diagram I drew like 2 years ago, if I thought about that. If you want to develop something like plan, build, operate, and no matter, it doesn't have to be construction site, you will have a field where you go like, we should simulate something. And we have IoT sensors, which are interesting in the operational field. And we have digital city twin fields, also like in the digitizing existing buildings already, through building scannings or something like that. But at the end of the day, from my perspective, where the most narrow and the most intense moment of a digital twin develops is when something is being put together. If it's a machine part, a pizza, a whole building, whatever. The moment when things get assembled, yeah, click. This is the moment where I think the most interesting development of a digital twin are being created. Why? Because you see everything inside. Did the simulation of the twin help to get there? Where are the errors? What is the delta? What is the margins? And if something breaks 20 years from now on, can I go back in time and see what happened to the assembly at that moment per se? This is a theory. I can be totally wrong, but this is how I see there are different fields to describe how the structure of a digital twin can benefit something like standards for a project. So only my opinion, can be wrong. We can set this presentation around when I corrected the platforms to the double T as a reflex. Yeah, if Emilia wants that. Yeah, and then you can separately take a look at that. So, what is your delta? Yeah, to generate this entity that directly communicates of some kind of database between, let's say, a building, but it can be anything. These entities can be anything possibly imagined, like butterflies or whatever. It's crazy enough is. No? So. My question for you is today, which I want to close is, for my personal meaning, the digital twin is something that is a connection through time and space, like space-time. Because our minds are developed like, oh, okay, I see an object, I can deal with that. But if you start a discussion again, like the fourth dimension, and you would see the development of an asset by a clear identification behind that over time, from the beginning of its existence, even if it was simulated, to the end of its existence, and you have a string, yeah, of the movement of this entity. You have millions of strings that shows the behavior of something. It's like a picture. It's like a data cluster. And then you could, in the next step of the simulation, grow really how things would vary. And you get a totally different comprehension and level how things could work and interact with each other if there would be a digital twin of the whole world. So basically it's like space-time, and you can visualize space-time like all 4 dimensions at once. Yeah, this I think is the potential of digital twin, but this is a little bit cuckoo bananas if I explain it like this. But the thinking behind that is just to say that if all entities are created to that, it could have a huge amount of input. So just to finish the whole things, what are the lessons learned of today from your side? It was a question.
There's definitely a lot of things to think about. It's hard to sum it up in, you know, things learned. Just, you know, the more you learn, the more you understand that you don't know that much.
Every day you describe my life or what my wife tells me. You don't know nothing. I say, I know that. But maybe, yes, please.
May I ask you a very, very stupid question?
There are no stupid questions.
If there is a digital twin, why is there no physical twin?
If there's a digital twin, why is there no physical twin?
I mean, we are talking in sequences, so it's a serial process somehow.
Yeah, right.
Twins are usually living in parallel, not in sequence, so not in series. It's not a serial process; it's a parallel process.
Yes,
I think transferring that to building would mean you would start to do the digital part in parallel to the physical part.
I have a stupid answer to that, but it's not stupid. It's just blunt. It's to say, because we get used to it. Because why is there light? Because there's light while you ask those questions. You see, I think if you get so used to something, and we try to describe something like this, I think these digital entities give us just the possibilities to try to describe and work differently with the things that we're used to anyway. And the one thing that you said that popped in my mind, I didn't think about that, is why is there no physical twin? I said, yes, if I would desequence DNA from a human person through the molecular level of a digital twin, I basically could build a physical twin of a digital twin if I could be ready to create an animal or human being from that. Yeah, I mean, you could also think in that way if you go deep enough. Yeah, but the question is good. Why is there no physical twin that is iterated and described with it? I think the answer is because we get used to it so much. And actually, the first physical twins that you could describe that they existed, there were those in construction site. Those, if you know those 3D models that you built with hands, it's so funny because that's the same thing. Yeah, it's like those models you build by hand, which I hated to do that because I'm clumsy with that. I always do it with lasers if I have to. Yeah, but it's also, so people have plans, but they always stand around this model and talk about that. Yeah, because it's an ideal. It's an ideal of something. Yeah, and you can always easier talk about an ideal about something than to just have the concept about itself. So I think that's why. But I have no clear answer. Anybody else has a better answer?
I don't have an answer, but I was just thinking about this question, so why there's no physical one, and exactly this physical dimension. As far as actually I've read, it was NASA, one of the first ones who introduced the digital twin, because they were, yes. If I'm correct, they were sending, what they were sending exactly to Mars that time, back in time, but they needed, because it is impossible actually to be present there. They needed to create this digital twin so that they can imagine if something happens there on board, what would be exactly the consequence then, so that they can investigate it in real time in their own laboratories. Yes. And it is exactly this very, I still don't have an answer for myself. It's this a division between physical and digital that you have, and in some time you spend. Can you actually get lost in the digital twin in a way? And isn't it's in fact going also to change the way we deal with information, because before you needed to travel somewhere in order to see, for example, a museum piece or to get to visit a laboratory, something like that. And now you can just go to the, if they've created already their own digital twin, you just click on the link and you're already there, walking through the Louvre or walking somewhere else completely. It's not a lesson learned, it's just a new, it's one of the thoughts that I was having while I was listening to you.
Yeah, and I also had that often this like connection of art and culture, having all those visit all those museums and all this time or other things, just by having that they made those scans itself, and that's just so. I mean, if you think about that, it's like the human soul. You go like yeah, I could do something else, but I feel drawn to that picture, to the expression, to that. Yeah, I once if you're in Munich, you can take a look at the Da Vinci, the only one north of the Alps. It's in the Alte Pinakothek, and I took like 3 hours to look at this picture, which sounds stupid, but it was so interesting because if you stand away from this picture, this has like 5 pictures in one picture, because it plays with the structure, how light develops, and then you have different angles by the details the faster you come to. But why would you look at this? And this is because it's interesting. It dazzles you. It is something that inspires you, and you don't know why that is. And as you said, Emilia, now we can accelerate much more information in much shorter time. Yeah. To feed that need in one way or the other. And I don't know if it's good, but it actually it briefs the possibility behind that. And this is amazing. And as you said, like this, all these NASA things, which is amazing, yeah, to have a concept or a process or even have some kind of digital twins. Like, yeah, we need to handle that. And then if you shot the first person in space, and then you have verified that the Earth is not flat in one way, yeah, and that's it. End of story. And then like 800 years or 2000 years of no, the world is flat. Yeah, you go like, nah, I don't think so. But thank you for joining the discussion. Yeah. So by the way, you reach all those steps to the doorway, it becomes common sense. I think this is what where we are right now, and it's just the efforts to go there. Yeah.
And there's the big question: what happens when there's no electricity?
Exactly. Or if there's an EMP from the sun and everything gets clean wiped. Yeah, and you go like, that's cool. Let's start from zero. Yeah, it's like when your laptop dies. Of course, I did not make any big backup, just small parts, because it would have been too simple, right? Okay, maybe any more questions, ideas, stuff like that? I think it's already 6 o'clock. How about a quick feedback from anybody who wants to share? How did you like today's session that we held? Any kind of feedback, good, bad, what could you do better, like that?
I think it would be really nice if everybody could just shortly mention something. Not everybody, but well, at least the ones who.
Thanks for the presentation. I have just one short question. The process, like the acceptance of the Twin Digital and the BIM in the small architectural firm around the world, it is just like other inventions or other innovations, like when it becomes more cheaper and more easier to understand, they will accept it, or there is another stimula there to push these firms to accept it more faster or easier?
I think the only solution to that problem is, which you describe, is that people who pay the project, they recommend it if they see the benefit of it, because the tools and the toys, every big architect, even every small architectural company owns them and basically uses them in one way or the other, just not the whole way they should. They only need some structure from outside who goes like, you have to deliver it like that, otherwise you don't get your money. And the guy who pays it, the person to require it, and that's it. Yeah, and I think it will go through all branches one way to the other, only if people start to accept the benefits for that. I think the big issue are the software companies, because they create the problem and then you have to pay big money to solve it. they have to vanish and something new has to come. That solves the SketchUp will solve the problem. $600 and does everything that Revit, Allplan, Archicad do for anything else. Any more feedback?
Thanks.
How did you like it? My pleasure.
Yeah, thanks for the presentation, all the discussions. So I enjoyed those a lot. So maybe personally, I was hoping to get a lot. I think that you're more into the BIM environment in terms of like the digital twin. So I was hoping to hear a bit more about digital twin as a 3D city model. But I mean, I get it. So there's a lot of ideas, and it's quite huge topic. So thanks for.
We leave that for Jörg. I don't want to take his topic completely away. Yeah. Otherwise, I get no beer for free. But I could also do digital city twin only. I can.
Yeah. So yeah. Thanks for that. I'm sure there's a lot of more questions to come in the future. But maybe quickly, you showed that one example where you used Matterport as a 360. So my feedback is asking if you have any feedback of like actually contractors using it, and you know how is the process going? Them using the technology that maybe that they are not that familiar with.
They love it. The guys at the construction sites, why they love it? Because basically, some people of us go scanning, or I do it myself, like yesterday till 1 o'clock at night, for a little thing. Why? Because I know the guy. And the thing is the following: people go like, "What's that?" And you go like, "Well, that's something that can scan your building." And how does it work? And you show an example, and he goes like, "That's cool." And you go like, "Why do you think it's cool?" So it's like, it's simple, because now you just scanned the stuff I'm working on the floor here, and now I have proof that I did it. Because if they put the floor on top of that, and I go to the guy who pays the bills, they go like, "Yeah, but I need this Nachtrag." I had to extra construct that. He goes like, "No, it's not in the list. I'm not paying you." And then this whole blah blah start, who gets the money and stuff like that. And by that, he's sure to have evidence so he can get the money on his bank account. So the simplification and the transparency leads that people immediately realize what's the upgrade for it. Because the upgrade is that basically in the construction site, people just try not to pay the bills the whole time. And it can really be annoying in many factors, and that helps them for that, no?
But are you using just the camera that goes with the Matterport, or are you using 3D scanner?
We have more things. We have like all those Leica stuffs like that. We also tackle with Faro. It's a toolbox. It's nothing more. It's for me. It's you have a requirement of use cases, and then what the guy thinks he needs, and then I tell him what he actually needs, and then we pick out the tool and then we do it, and that's it. It's a toolbox, and it develops so fast. And basically what I'm interested in is the point clouds, because we have experimented with different viewers. We try to compare point clouds web-based with the 3D model itself. Why? Because it's logical in one way, and you have to do it over the server, because if you don't do it over the server, you can use BIM Collab Zoom and try to put in point clouds. Good luck. Or Revit, and it goes like the system crashes in 2 seconds. And that's the point. The data points are the limit, and they don't understand it. So it always needs to be server based in so many levels. But it's clearly and purely a toolbox.
Thank you very much, Milos. I think it is. Günther, you would like to say something?
My pleasure. No, I don't need to have the last words. Just wanted to thank you. I missed the start of your input, and
you have the recording. You have the recording.
Yeah.
But we'll cut things out.
That I have to revisit. So I gave up on that too. No, but thanks for that, and at least from my part, it made me think of many aspects, and to rethink also what I did in the past, and probably what I will do in the future. So in that sense, it was helpful, and it gave some nice extra input and new flavor to some things. Thanks for that.
Well, my pleasure. I'm just a humble servant. I'm just a humble servant. I'm lucky. Thank you, Amalia, for letting me be Emilia, to be a part of this. And I just hope you didn't fall asleep after the 5 minutes, but after 15 minutes, and then mute the button before you just woke up again. No, just kidding. Yeah, that's that. No, thanks for the input, because I tried to show some structures, show some examples, and as much as digitalization is nice, this sucks, yeah, because it's much better to sit together in a room and interact through that, and then you can narrow talk and have an idea and stuff like that. But it is the way it is, so we have to deal with that right now. Yeah, and I think it works in somehow, but there are limits, and the human contact, it's you in person, it's different. Yeah, it's much more fun. So maybe one day we will meet in person or not, but it would be really nice.
Yeah, I would like to thank you so much. I'm not a person who creates such tools, but I'm an only user. So for me, maybe it's not the topic which can I involve deeply and say something, but your point of view is very interesting, and maybe in future I will be able to be kind of person who will add something to this tool. But as a user, and I feel that I'm in a phase of BIM revolution now, and using an AutoCAD only. I'm in the phase of kind of changing of my tools. So I'm learning a lot from now as a beginner from such lectures like you. So thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you all for being part of this. Thank you one more time, Milos. It was really great. We've recorded that and we will upload it on our YouTube channel.
No! Double piece first. Okay.
But
fine. He has 20 euros. No, just
so there are others who weren't able to participate today, but they asked me if this is going to be recorded. So there's a lot of interest. It's just as you said, because it's not physical contact, we all are divided between so many different appointments that we have. But it was really a great pleasure. Thank you very much. Hope that we see you again and exchange again. And I wish to the rest a very nice afternoon. Enjoy the sun, and see you tomorrow, the majority of you.
Thank you.
See you tomorrow.
See you.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Thank you.